Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
A lot of drama on this Wednesday with an episode of Dr. Christian starring Gene Hersholdt, an episode of Escape about ancient sorceries, the Adventures of Philip Marlowe with the Ladies' Night, the Hallmark Hall of Fame presentation of Simon Bolivar, Liberator, and an episode of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes starring John Stanley. And that's what's coming up on this Wednesday, 21st day of February, 52nd day of the year. We have 314 days remaining till we get to 2025. Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels published the Communist Manifesto on this date in 1848. The Oakland Daily Tribune published its first newspaper in 1874. The first telephone book issued in New Haven, Connecticut in 1878. Killed by Google, of course. In 1885, the newly completed Washington Monument dedicated. The New Yorker magazine published its first issue in 1925. In 1937, the initial flight of the first successful flying car, Waldo Waterman's Aerobeel. Now, in 1937, the League of Nations banned foreign national volunteers in the Spanish Civil War. In New York City in 1947, Edwin Land demonstrated the first instant camera, the Polaroid Land camera, to a meeting of the Optical Society of America, killed also by digital cameras. NASCAR incorporated on this date in 1948. In 1952, the government of Winston Churchill abolished identity cards in the UK to set the people free. Francis Crick, James D. Watson discovered the structure of the DNA molecule on this date in 1953. Cuban leader Fidel Castro nationalized all Cuban businesses in 1960. In 1965, Malcolm X assassinated at the Audubon Ballroom in New York City.
Whites can help us, but they can't join us. There can be no black-white unity until there is first some black unity. We cannot think of being acceptable to others until we have first proven acceptable to ourselves.
The assassination was believed to be by the Nation of Islam, although people now say it was a construct of other governmental agencies. In 1972, President Nixon visited the People's Republic of China to normalize Sino-American relations. The last Israeli soldiers left the west bank of the Suez Canal on this date in 1974 in carrying out a truce with Egypt. In 1975, former Attorney General John N. Mitchell and former White House aides H.R. Haldeman, John Ehrlichman, sentenced to prison. It was on this date in 1988, Jimmy Swaggart, on his own televangelism program being taped in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, confessed he was guilty of an unspecified sin and would be temporarily leaving the pulpit.
I have sinned against you, my Lord, and I would ask that your precious blood would wash and cleanse every stain until it is in the seas of God's forgetfulness.
Now, Swaggart would eventually be defrocked by the Assemblies of God, but after some time would continue his ministries as an independent church. In 1995, Steve Fawcett landed in Leader, Saskatchewan, Canada, becoming the first person to make a solo flight across the Pacific Ocean in a balloon. In 2000, David Letterman returned to The Late Show over a month after having an emergency quintuple heart bypass surgery. Letterman would quip at the time, "Who knew? I didn't even know I had a heart." And in 2006, New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg unveiled a brand new sign on the corner of West 66th Street called Peter Jennings Way, in honor of the late ABC News anchor Peter Jennings.
We'll walk down Peter Jennings' Way, smile at the thought of an old friend, and then continue on. And I think somehow or other, that's the way Peter Jennings would have wanted it.
Among those passing away on this date in history, the Monkees' Peter Tork, evangelist Billy Graham, religious broadcaster Eugene Scott, composer Martin Gould, and disc jockey Murray the K.
Hey, baby, it's What's Happening. This is Murray the K coming your way right here on your favorite spot on the dial and telling you that we've got all kinds of goodies tonight. Later on, we'll have the record review board contest, a little submarine race watching, and right now...
Submarine race watching, I remember that well. Murray the K, passing away on this date in history. Among those born on this date no longer with us, Spanish guitarist Andres Segovia, actress Ann Sheridan, film director Sam Peckinpah, humorist Irma Bombeck, a very funny lady, and her books were so good. From Maude, Mama's Family, and Golden Girls, Rue McClanahan, Snape in Harry Potter, Alan Rickman, and Davy Allison, all born on this date in history.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. Gary Lockwood from 2001, 87 years old today. From Cagney and Lacey, Tyne Daly is 78. He played C-3PO in all of the Star Wars movies. Anthony Daniels, 78. Frasier, Kelsey Grammer, 69. He's played that character for over 30 years, and that's one of the longest portrayals in television history. Her song, Passionate Kisses, Mary Chapin Carpenter, 66. As from Dynasty, Heroes, and Castle, Jack Coleman also turning 66. The lead guy in the Blue Lagoon, Christopher Atkins, 63 today. Billy Baldwin, 61. From Mad TV, Nicole Parker, 46. Another Mad TV alum, Jordan Peele, also of Key and Peele, 45 today. Back in the WWE, wrestler Carly Colon of the Colon wrestling family, 45. Actress Jennifer Love Hewitt, 45 today as well. Delightful Welsh singer Charlotte Church is 38. From Twilight, Ashley Greene is 37. And the currently separated Mrs. Joe Jonas from Game of Thrones, Sophie Turner, is 28. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 21st day of February as their birthday. And if this is your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say... Happy birthday to you.
And we'll head to the little town of Rivers End in just a moment and see what's going on with Dr. Christian from 85 years ago, February 21st, 1939. That's up next here on this Wednesday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Are you saving old newspapers, magazines, paper bags, and boxes? Paper is a vital war material, and there's a serious shortage. Sell your waste paper or give it to a local charity. And now we move out of the theater and into the street.
Alrighty, one of the biggest flaps I had at USA Radio was when I insisted on running a lot of Dr. Christian, starring Gene Hersholdt. And they thought, well, why do we want to run this show? You know, I said, well, this has relevance to modern history because the Gene Hersholdt Humanitarian Award continues to this day, and it's something that should be celebrated. It began in radio, and in fact, that's the motion picture home, and the things that you hear talked about on many of these shows, how radio took care of its own and took care of motion picture actors as well. And it all came from Gene Hersholdt, a big humanitarian. And but it became a flap for some reason. They thought I should be devoting the time that I'm spending on Gene Hersholdt to Bob Hope and Jack Benny and many of those. And we run those shows. But they thought, oh, no, run more of these. Well, what can I say? So 85 years ago, it's February 21st, 1939. This episode of Gene Hersholdt and Dr. Christian in Washington had his Delaware.
California, we present Gene Hersholdt in another Dr. Christian story called Washington Had His Delaware. Brought to you by the Cheesebro Manufacturing Company, owners of the trademark Vaseline, and producers of Vaseline Petroleum Jelly, Vaseline Hair Tonic, and other Vaseline specialties. Here's a message to Mrs. America about a very important personal problem, the state of Mr. America's scalp and hair. If you find yourself brushing dandruff scales off his collar, or if his hair seems stiff and dry and won't stay in place, then watch out. These are the danger signs of dry scalp. Do you know any man who has these symptoms? Do him this favor. Tell him about Vaseline Hair Tonic. Or better yet, buy a bottle for him and get him started with it right away. Vaseline Hair Tonic is different and especially good for dry scalp. It supplements the scalp's own oils and gives the hair a natural, well-groomed look. And the treatment is so easy. Just a few drops of Vaseline Hair Tonic rubbed on every morning and a thorough Vaseline Hair Tonic massage before each shampoo. Yes, Vaseline Hair Tonic does the trick the way he wants it done. It comes in convenient shaker top bottles at 40 and 70 cents. Our play begins late one afternoon in a little cottage across the railroad tracks where Dr. Christian is calling on Mary Ann Smithers. Mary Ann is only 17, but she and Dan Smithers were married more than a year ago. And now?
And I want you to come to see me regularly from now on, Mary Ann. Remember, it's very important.
Oh, but, Dr. Christian, how can I when I don't know where the money's coming from to pay you?
Oh, that's my worry, not yours. Your job is to keep as well and as cheerful as you can for the next few weeks. Then after the baby's here and you're strong again, we can talk about bills.
But it might be more than we could ever pay.
I've never yet charged a patient more than he could pay, Mary Ann. I'm certainly not going to start with you.
But, Dr. Christian, you don't understand. Dan's working now, but it's only part-time. Oh, you know how things are at the factory. He's likely to get laid off any minute.
And he's just as likely to begin working full-time any minute, too. Mary Ann, you and Dan are very young. You're smart and ambitious. You have your whole life ahead of you, you and your baby. Why, Mary Ann, I'm surprised at you. What are those tears for?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just can't help it. Everything's so terrible.
Terrible? Why, Mary Ann, you told me you and Dan wanted this baby.
Oh, we do. Honest, we do. Only...
Only what?
Oh, Dr. Christian, Dan's changed.
Changed? You mean he doesn't want...
No, I guess he still wants us to have the baby all right, but... Oh, he's been listening to things. Folks have been talking to him, and he says now we shouldn't have children we can't support. He says a man hasn't a chance anymore, and it's the government's fault.
Who talks to him like that?
Oh, he hears it at the meetings they have down in Briggs Hall every night. There are some men here from out of town. Oh, the leader's named Meggs. And they just stir everybody up, Dr. Christian. They keep telling the boys they aren't getting a chance, that the old ideas are out and the world's got to be made over. Things like that. I hear Dan and my brother Curly talking after they come home.
Curly lives here with you?
Yes. Oh, he's a nice kid, but he's only 16. And you see, Dr. Christian, he doesn't know any better. Dan and Curly act as though this man Meggs was some sort of a hero.
Young men at that age usually do have one.
Well, they shouldn't have Meggs. You see, Doctor, when Dan and I got married, he was earning good money and everything looked fine. And then things got bad and they started laying men off.
Yes, lots of places I've had a hard time to keep open, but they agreed to keep things going so that there'd be at least some work.
I know. At first, Dan thought they were being awfully fair. We used to plan how to get along on half wages till things were better. And Dan figured out all sorts of ways of making extra money.
That's the spirit.
But he don't do it anymore, Dr. Christian. Sometimes he frightens me. He's so bitter. And he won't talk to me about things anymore. It's all because of those meetings. I know it is.
What makes you think that?
Well, Dan never says anything, but Mrs. Harris told me they've been trying to get some of the boys to just quit and go to Chicago with them.
What for?
Nobody seems sure. Mrs. Harris thinks they're just out-and-out gangsters. But, well, how could she know? Anyhow, they keep after the boys all the time, telling them what fools they are to stay here and only work part-time and get such poor pay and...
And do the boys believe it?
Some of them do. Why, Mrs. Harris said that 6 of the regular crew that used to board at her house quit and went away somewhere last week.
I'm glad you told me about it, Marianne.
You see, I don't mind being so poor now. Why, Dan's going to be somebody someday. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a factory of his own or anything. You know, Dan ain't just common. He's proud, Dan is. Why, he told me once he hoped the baby'd be a boy to sort of, well, carry on the family for him. And
yes.
Oh, I'm awfully scared. Dan isn't bad. You know that. He never did a wrong thing in his life, but when I think how he used to be, believing in everything and happy, and then listen to him now.
Oh, young fellas are likely to get funny ideas sometime, Marianne. I know. I was pretty wild myself once.
You?
Oh, yes, I was. You see, Marianne, there's a time in a young man's life when he's sure he's been selected to battle the world alone and single-handed. He's just got to fight, and if you don't give him something worthwhile to fight for, why, the chances are he'll start fighting against the first thing that comes along.
Oh, Dr. Christian, maybe that's what's happened to Dan. It makes him awful mad when I beg him not to go to those meetings, but Dr. Christian, he don't belong there.
Marianne, will you make me a promise?
I'll try.
Promise me you'll stop worrying about all this.
Oh, but
I know, but when you argue with Dan, it just makes it worse.
Why should it, if he loves me?
Because through circumstances which he himself couldn't help, Dan's income has been cut in half. Well, it makes him feel inferior, cheap. Right now, when he particularly wants to be taking good care of you, he feels that in your eyes he's a failure.
Oh, he's not.
I know. But I'm telling you how he feels. That's why he goes to those meetings and talks loud. Well, you've got to find some way of giving him some real importance again.
Oh, if he'd only get his job back.
That would help. But I like to make Dan so sure of himself he could lose any job without it affecting his faith in himself. Let me think about it, Marianne. In the meantime, take good care of yourself.
I'll try.
Come in the office next week. Well, I'll be running along.
Oh, listen. Who's that?
It sounded like the front door. I'll see.
Dan, what's the matter? Are you sick?
Yeah, I'm sick, all right.
Well, what is it? Is it your cold?
No, it isn't my cold.
Well, you've got a doctor right here. Let me prescribe for you.
I haven't got anything you can cure, Dr. Christian.
Oh, but Danny, what is it?
Oh, forget it. Sorry to come busting in here this way. Didn't know you were here, Doc. Well, I'm sort of upset.
I stopped to see Marianne. See, she hasn't been coming to my office as she promised, so I came to see
Well, she won't be coming anymore either, so I'm afraid you've wasted your time.
Oh, no, Dan.
Do I understand you're discharging me from the case?
Sure. That's what I'm doing, Doc. Firing you.
Oh, but Dan, why...
Why? Because we don't accept charity, that's why. Because I can't afford to pay you enough to take care of my wife. To bring my kid into the world. Because we live in a country where a fella can't be straight and earn a decent living. And so I'm broke. Do you get it? Flat, stony broke. I haven't got a plug nickel in the world, and I just got fired.
Sorry, Dr. Christian, but I think it's a dangerous experiment.
It's a very dangerous situation, John.
I realize that. That whole gang that hangs around Briggs Hall is a bad element. For the safety of River's End, it should be broken up.
That's what I expect to do with it.
Yeah, but Dr. Christian, we've got reason to believe that the men who are holding these meetings are preying on the discontent of youngsters who are out of work to recruit them into a life of crime.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, and you talk about putting these young toughs into a pageant. Well, you might as well go out to meet a roaring lion with a lollipop.
Well, I wonder if anyone has ever tried that. You know, it just might work.
Well, I'm afraid somebody else will have to try it first. You know, I don't like lions. As mayor of River's End, I don't feel we ought to turn them loose in our streets.
I'll keep them off the streets, Mayor. I promise you. Seriously, John, I need your support in this. I want to make the George Washington birthday pageant something River's End will always remember.
Oh, but you can't do it. People simply will not get excited about patriotic celebrations these days.
That's because they aren't handled right. John, a double-sized dose of good old-fashioned patriotism is just what this town needs.
Well, I'm afraid I don't see it. There's too much real trouble in the world these days for anybody to care much about Washington crossing the Delaware.
They might care if they realized what he stood for.
What do you mean?
I mean that too many people don't know the first thing about our own country, or what it cost. We've been brought up to think of Washington crossing the Delaware as if he was going to a picnic. In school, all we got was a story about the wonderful success of our valiant forefathers. Well, you would think all the colonies ever had to do was say, boo to England.
Now, don't go attacking our ancestors.
Attacking them? I want to glorify them. But I want to tell the truth about them. I want to tell the story as it really happened. About the hardship, the defeats, the absolute despair. Washington fighting the British, trying to recruit and maintain an army. A weary, discouraged man with a shilly-shallying conquest, which was afraid to call its soul its own. I want to show men who think things are dark and discouraging today what went into the founding of this country of ours.
Well, Dr. Christian,
I think it's time we stop complaining about life isn't as soft as we'd like to have it. It wasn't soft in the winter of 1777 either. Men were cold and hungry. They thought they were licked, that the stand of independence had come to nothing. But they went on fighting just the same.
Yeah. You're right, of course.
There's a lesson in it. If we can get those youngsters to see it. I'm going down to talk to Dan Smithers.
Dan Smithers? Why, he's the worst of the lot. He and Curly Myers, they hang around all the time with that man Meigs.
I know. That's why I think it's time to give them a new hero. I've got a theory about it, John.
Well, you usually know what you're doing. I'll help you organize this pageant, but... Dr. Christian, just where does Dan Smithers fit into this picture?
Dan? Oh, he's going to play George Washington.
And so the curtain comes down on the first act of our Dr. Christian drama, Washington Had His Delaware. During intermission, we want you to hear what this young housewife has to say.
I do my own housework, and I enjoy it. But I must say that dishwashing 3 times a day is one of the easiest ways to get rough, chapped hands. Mine got so sore I asked my druggist what a housewife could do about it. He said, Mrs. Wells, I'll solve that problem of yours for just 10 cents. And he handed me a jar of Vaseline jelly. Well, it simply does wonders. The soreness and roughness have disappeared, and the little cracked places healed rapidly. Yes, the 10 cents I paid for that jar of Vaseline jelly was a sound investment.
There are 3 good reasons why Vaseline jelly is so effective in relieving irritated skin conditions. First, it is absolutely pure and free from all harsh or irritating ingredients. Second, it forms a protective film which helps keep infection out when the skin is broken. And finally, it soothes, softens, and lubricates the irritated skin by supplementing the natural skin oils. So follow the example of millions of families who keep Vaseline jelly always on hand for daily use and for first aid. Act 2 of Gene Hersholdt's Dr. Christian story. The scene is the high school auditorium where preparations for the pageant have been busily going forward. We look in on a quiet corner of the stage.
Diane doesn't mind because you're away so much for rehearsals, does she, Dan?
No, she's all excited about this. She's coming to the show. And, well, the money you're paying me helps a lot just now, Doc. I don't see how what I'm doing is worth it, but...
You've been splendid with the younger boys, Dan. I think this pageant is going to be very important to River's End, and I couldn't have managed it without you. Now, shall we run through this scene of yours again?
Okay.
Good.
Just wait till I take another look at my lines. You know, Dr. Christian, it's funny. A few weeks ago, I'd have said there wasn't anything in the world could make me get mixed up in a thing like this. A show with costumes.
Oh, you mean you never wanted to be an actor?
Oh, it wasn't only that. It was all this patriotic stuff. I always thought it was a lot of baloney. Drummer boys and Liberty Bells and Washington crossing a river standing up in a rowboat.
Oh?
I was pretty sore at America. But I've learned a lot about this country I never knew before.
Didn't you study history in school?
Oh, sure, but... Well, do you know, Doc, till I began to learn this part, I never thought George Washington was a real man.
Didn't you?
No. I thought he was just sort of a stuffed shirt.
Face on a postage stamp, eh?
Yeah. Gee. Now when I look at what he had to put up with, well, knowing all those things makes you feel different, don't it? About the United States and governments and everything. When you figure how hard it was to get it started. And what we went through to get free.
There's no other freedom in the world like our American freedom, Dan. It's a good thing for us all to remember when things doesn't go just the way we want them to.
Yeah, I suppose.
All of us like to talk about our sacred heritage of liberty. But if you're hungry and out of work, it doesn't seem to mean much. Just a lot of words.
Uh-huh. I know.
But there are some places where you can be hungry all your life and never have a chance to do anything about it. It's not like that here. Liberty in America means the right to have a chance to use the stuff that's in you to get somewhere. It means the right to think no as well as yes. It means the right to use your brains if you have them, to be somebody, to do things for yourself, Marianne, and this baby of yours. When you think of it in that way, it begins to get important, worth holding on to, putting up a fight for. Just the way Washington and his men fought, even when they were cold and starving and sure they were defeated. It's a lot bigger than any personal problem, Sam. It's the biggest thing in life.
Yeah. Well, let's do the scene.
All right. Now, let's begin where Washington is dictating his report on the Battle of Princeton. Now, think about this, won't you, Dan? You're George Washington. You're responsible for the lives of the entire American army. You set out to build a new nation. Your men are half frozen, starved, out there in the dark. You know your forces are greatly outnumbered. You're desperate for yourself, for your army, for your country. But you're a man, not a quitter. You don't squeal or resort to underhand methods when fate seems against you. You don't rave to Congress about your hardship. Now, you sit at your desk, shivering. You're dictating to a young lieutenant. Go on.
I have the honor to inform you that since the date of my last from Trenton, I have removed with the army under my command to this place. The difficulty of crossing the Delaware on account of the ice made our passage over it tedious. Tedious. Can you tie that? I am moving to Morristown, where I shall endeavor to put my men under the best cover I can. Hitherto we have been without any, and many of our poor soldiers quite barefoot, and ill-clad in other respects.
Well, that's very good. What's the matter, Dan?
Oh, nothing much. I was just thinking. You know, when you come to look at it, a lot of stuff some people try to tell you today is awful un-American. Gee, George Washington must have been a great guy.
You know, I'm always a pushover for a thing like this, and then I get stage fright so bad. Oh, Joe, please don't forget to give me my cue. It comes right after the second tablet.
Relax, May, relax. I'll remember it all right. Say, where's Dr. Christian?
Well, he's putting the boys through the Declaration of Independence scene again. Just as soon as he finishes, we're going to start the dress rehearsal.
Boy, this is going to be a swell pageant.
Yeah. You wouldn't think the kids up our way would go for this, would you? Oh, look, those boys haven't got the buckles on their shoes.
Well, where are they, do you know?
Well, Judy Price has got them.
Well, I'll go and call the roll and make sure everybody's here.
Okay. Oh, Dr. Christian.
Yes?
Where's Judy Price?
Oh, she'll be here in a minute. She had some work at the office.
I'll bet she'll be glad when this is over.
Well, I think we're about ready to start. Is everybody here?
Well, Joe just went to check up. Oh, no, here he comes now.
Cast complete, Joe?
Everybody's here but Dan Smithers.
Dan? Funny he'd be late.
Yes. Well, we can't very well go ahead without him. Anybody see him?
Well, Jake Mullen said he saw him up near Briggs Hall a couple hours ago.
Briggs Hall?
Yeah, Meggs was having some sort of a meeting.
Joe, are you sure?
Well, that's what Jake said. He said Curly Myers was there and a few of the older fellas.
I see. Well, he'll probably be along any minute now. Be sure everybody else is ready.
Yes, sir. Come on now, you kids. Everybody backstage. Backstage, everybody. Come on now, move on there.
Well, Dr. Christian, I thought I'd come down and have a look at your dress rehearsal. Judy tells me everything's going splendidly.
Seems to be all right, John. We've got more than half of the boys from the north side of the thing, and they're having the time of their lives.
Ah, that's fine. You know, I owe you an apology, Dr. Christian, for being so skeptical about this in the beginning. It was a great idea.
I hope so.
Hope so. There isn't any doubt about it. Everybody in town is interested in it. And you've got that gang of young hoodlums from the north side right under your thumb. Using them in the revolutionary scenes was a stroke of genius.
Was it?
Well, it's completely broken up that gang that used to hang around Briggs Hall. You know, I heard today that Meggs is leaving town.
Meggs? Leaving town? When is he going?
Oh, any time now. When Dan Smithers walked out on him, I guess he knew the game was up. Oh, how soon are you going to start?
Oh, right away. We're just waiting for a couple of people.
Well, if it's Judy you're waiting for, why, here she is. Hello, Judy. What kind of a leading lady are you, late for a dress rehearsal?
I'm sorry. Dr. Christian, I've got something to tell you.
Yes, Judy.
Mary Ann Smithers just sent one of the neighbor boys up to tell me that
Yes, Judy.
that Dan didn't come home for supper.
Oh, he's probably over at the lunchroom. Send somebody
No.
over.
Oh, I hate to tell you this, Dr. Christian. I didn't want to believe it, but some of the boys saw him and
So what, Judy?
saw Dan Smithers get on the 6 o'clock train for Chicago.
Chicago?
Yeah.
Dan? Oh, I don't believe it, Judy. Why, tonight's the dress rehearsal. Dan wouldn't go off like that.
But he had. Meggs and his crowd took the train at the junction, and just as it was pulling out, the boys saw Dan run down the platform and swing onto the last coach.
Judy, were they sure?
I guess they were, Dr. Christian.
So Dan went to Chicago with Meggs, after all. Well, Judy, we'll have to find a substitute quickly.
Oh, Dr. Christian, that isn't all. Mary Ann Smithers needs you.
Needs me? Why?
She went all to pieces when she found out about Dan. You better go to her right away, Dr. Christian.
Oh, of course, Judy. Will you see?
I'll take charge here. I'll get Mary Hewitt to read the George Washington part, and I'll put him through a full rehearsal. Then we'll have to find somebody tomorrow to jump into Dan's role. We can rehearse all day tomorrow. It'll be all right.
Will it?
Of course it will. Ah, Dr. Christian, please don't look like that. It was a wonderful idea. Just because Dan Smithers is a crazy young hothead is no reason for you to blame yourself. You did everything you could.
Yes, I did everything I could. But do you know, Judy, sometimes I think I'm just an idealistic old fool. There now, Mary Ann. Just lie quietly and rest.
Dr. Christian, where's Dan?
Oh, Dan will be back. Don't you worry. I'll go to Chicago and get him myself if I have to.
But how could he go that way?
Now, you've been very brave, Mary Ann. You've got to keep right on doing it. First thing, you must get some rest. I'll send Miss Hawkinson to make you comfortable.
You know, I like Miss Hawkins. She's the first nurse I ever had.
She'll take very good care of you. I'm going now, Mary Ann. But I'll see you again this afternoon.
This afternoon? Well, what time is it?
Oh, it's almost morning. Goodbye, Mary Ann.
Goodbye.
Judy, what on earth are you doing here?
Oh, I came up after the rehearsal. I've been out here ever since helping Miss Hawkins.
You're a great girl, Judy.
Is Mary Ann all right?
Yes, she's all right, Judy. Only her heart's broken over Dan.
He ought to be shot.
I don't understand.
I don't know why you had to pull me off that train. It was my own...
And another thing, I don't want Mary Ann to know anything about it, Curly. Do you understand?
Why, Dan, what?
Why, Dr. Christian, what are you doing here?
I'm making a professional call, Dan.
But what? Oh, gee, Doc, I have a lot of things to explain to you. This is Curly, Mary Ann's brother.
Well, we just got back.
I was awfully sorry to leave you in the lurch tonight, but I know my part, Doc. I'll be all right even if I did miss the rehearsal. And, well, I just had to go.
Had to go where, Dan?
Had to go after Curly. Oh, gee, what a night. You see, Doc, I was coming home from rehearsal when I met some of the fellas at the hall. And they told me Curly was going off to Chicago with Meggs. Well, Meggs is no good American. So I think fast, and I know Mary Ann will be fit to be tied when she hears that. So I beat it all the way to the junction and just catch the train. And sure enough, there's Curly, the sap.
What's my own
Oh,
business?
keep quiet. You're not old enough to have any business. I had an awful time getting him to come back, Doc. Meggs wasn't going to let him go at first, and I had to, argue a little.
Is that how you got that black eye?
Yeah, but you ought to see his. So then we got off at East River and hopped a freight.
Oh, that's where you were.
Yeah. I wanted to get him back without Mary Ann finding out about it. Say, Doc, how come you're here this time of night? There isn't anything wrong, is there? There isn't. Mary Ann, she...
No, there isn't anything wrong, Dan. Not anything at all.
Well, then what... Doc, you look awful funny. Has something happened? Dr. Christian, tell me.
Yes, something has happened. I'd like to be the first one to congratulate you, Dan. You're the father of a son.
What? I'm... You mean while I was away, I got a kid? Well, Mary Ann, she's...
Mary Ann is fine, Dan.
Come here. Dan? Mary Ann. Oh, gee, honey, I never dreamed. I had to go and get Curly for you, baby. Bring him back.
Get Curly? Is that where you were?
Yeah. I didn't mean to go away from you. I thought you wouldn't know. Oh, Mary Ann, I'm awful sorry.
Oh, it's all right now, Dan.
What the...
Dan, look. Here, I'll lift the blanket.
Well, I'll be.
Oh.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
And then, Dr. Christian's got a job for you. With Mr. Meek. At the awning, Mr. Meek. At the awning work.
He has? Oh, gosh, Doc, a job.
With steady pay and a chance to work up. If you're good.
Oh, don't worry about me, Doc, ever again. I've found myself.
He's a fine boy, Dan. And a good American, too. Born on Washington's birthday. What are you going to name him?
Well, I got a name picked out, sort of, in my mind, but, I don't know what Mary Ann will say about it.
Well, I'll say anything you do, Dad.
Well, then, on account of his birthday being today and the pageant and everything, do you think it's all right if we call him George?
And the curtain comes down on our Dr. Christian drama starring Gene Hersholdt in his most famous of all roles, the country doctor. Mr. Hersholdt and the cast will be here to greet you in just a moment. Meanwhile, I have a word to say about the products that make this program possible. Next time your hands get rough and sore, you'll be glad you had the foresight to get a supply of Vaseline jelly for your medicine cabinet. For Vaseline jelly forms a protective film which helps keep out germs and dirt. It softens the irritated skin by supplementing the natural oils. Best of all, it promotes rapid healing. So just to be on the safe side, in case of minor burns, cuts, or scratches, be sure you use Vaseline jelly. Pure enough for baby skin, pure enough to eat. So look for the trademark Vaseline and ask your druggist to introduce you to Vaseline borated jelly, Vaseline carbolated jelly, Vaseline camphor ice, and Vaseline lip ice. Pure Vaseline jelly is the base of all of them. The cast of tonight's play included Rosemary DeCamp as the popular Judy Price, secretary to Dr. Christian, Richard Quine in the role of Dan Smithers, Jerry Mohr as Mayor Hewitt, Ann Morrison as Mary Ann Smithers, Florence Hallop as her friend May, Frank Beelan as Joe, Lester J. as Curly, and our star, Gene Hersholdt, as Dr. Christian. Dr. Christian, what kind of story have you selected for us for next Tuesday night?
Next week, I think I'll tell you another story about Mara, Dick Foster's seeing-eye dog. He's a beautiful dog and has brought freedom of action and peace of soul to our beautiful blind girl. I think the story will give you a real lift, and so I invite you all to listen again next week at this same hour. Until then, I'll say good night.
Don't fail to listen to Gene Hersholdt's Dr. Christian story next week. It is called Puppy Love and is sure to give you a pleasant half hour. This is Arthur Gilmore bidding you good night. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Life was not easy anywhere in America in the 1930s, whatever people like to think. 85 years ago, February 21st, 1939, Dr. Christian here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Tomorrow we'll have The Crime, The Lives of Harry Lime, Big Town, Dragnet, The Lineup, and Counter Spy. Right now, coming up in just a moment, an episode of Escape from 76 years ago, February 21st, 1948.
You can have vegetables, lots of them, on your table next winter. You can have your own fresh vegetables on your table this summer if you have your own Victory Garden. Yes, there's no restriction on home canning and home processing of vegetables and garden fruits and berries. Plan your Victory Garden now. Get your garden plot lined up. Get the advice of a garden expert if you need it, and be prepared to grow your own for victory. Join a garden club or community garden movement, or share a garden with your neighbors. You can help win the battle of food production. You can help our fighting men get the food they need. You can help save the vital metals used in commercial canning if you grow your own Victory Garden in 1943. For further information, write to Victory Gardens, Washington, D.C. Victory Gardens, Washington, D.C.
Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now we go back 76 years, February 21st, 1948, for an episode of Escape.
Fed up with shoveling snow? Can't shake that cold of yours? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape.
You were alone in a remote village on the Welsh border, surrounded by silent townspeople who were watching and waiting for you to decide to lose your soul.
Escape, produced by William N. Robeson and carefully contrived to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Today we escape to a remote section of Wales and a strange village between two worlds, as Algernon Blackwood described it in his eerie story, Ancient Sorceries.
I had spent a week's vacation in Wales and was returning to London by train when it all began. It was late afternoon. We'd left the Welsh mountains and crossed the border into western England, passing through a countryside which appeared singularly empty, deserted of life. Over the soft hills and the valleys between hung a faintly perceptible haze, giving to the whole landscape a feeling of enchantment and unreality. The train slowed at length to stop at a tiny wayside station. As it did so, a sudden thought occurred to me. Why not leave the crowded train with its irritating noises and spend the night in this peaceful spot, then take a slower and emptier train in the morning? On the impulse, I rose from my seat, and the man sitting opposite me said,
Why say, sir, we only stop here for a minute or two. If you were thinking of walking about a bit.
No, matter of fact, I'm getting off here.
I thought you were going to London.
I'll go on in the morning. I'm going to stay here for the night.
I strongly advise you not to.
I beg your pardon?
This is the village of Malton.
Malton? I've never heard of it.
Few people have, outside. But if you place any value on your soul, you'll not spend the night here.
What are you talking about? Why not?
Because of the sleep. And because of the cats. That's all I can tell you.
You're insane. I'll take my bag now, if you don't mind.
You're making a terrible mistake. You may not even get the chance to regret it. Don't leave this train. I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, what utter nonsense.
Don't, I tell you.
Goodbye. I stood there on the embankment as the train pulled away. What was the matter with the man, anyway? Cats, sleep. His words made no sense. I picked up my bag and started walking up the long hill toward the village, and suddenly, for no reason at all, I shivered. Hello? Hello, is anyone here?
Yes?
Oh, I didn't see you at first.
Is there something I can do for you, sir?
Why, yes, I saw your sign outside the Inn of the Golden Bough. I should like to get a room.
You're planning to stay here?
Why, yes.
Very well. You may sign the register. Here.
Thank you. I'm going to catch another train and go on in the morning.
Yes, of course.
There we are.
Arthur Llewellyn. Llewellyn?
Yes, from London.
Arthur Llewellyn. You've been a long time coming back.
What?
But now that you're here, you'll find there are some things that never change.
Madam, I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about.
You rang, madam?
Don't worry. The gentleman would like a room for the night. His name is Arthur Llewellyn.
Aye, so it is. Welcome back to Malton, sir.
I knew I'd never been here before. What was it all about? First the men on the train, and now these people. Were they crazy, or was I? Oh, well, I left the inn and walked along narrow cobbled streets, beneath quaint gables leaning out from the silent shuttered houses, through dappled pools of light and shadow. As I walked, it gradually dawned upon me that the village of Malton was centuries old, older than any town in England ought to be. And the people I passed now and then were dressed in the fashion of another day. They paid no attention to me, went silently about their own business. Yes, that was it. That's what I'd been noticing. Silently. As I walked, I noticed they came and went with only soft padding sounds to mark their passing, as though they walked in shoes with soles of velvet. When I stopped, there was no sound. The silence was unbroken. I hurried through the streets and came at last to the far side of the village, to a place where the hill broke away sharply from a low, flat wall of stone, perhaps a rampart once. I sat down upon it, and the dreamy tranquility of the place stole over me. Presently, I don't know how much later, I became aware of the sound of weird music rising out of the vale below me. I looked down from the rampart. The sunken plain at the bottom melted away into a sea of gathering shadow, blurred into a swirl of thickening mist. I thought of dead trees swept by the night wind, of animals with half-human voices singing to a white moon, of the wailing of cats on the roof tiles at night, of unearthly creatures far off in the sky calling to one another in chorus. I felt my heart beat faster and faster, felt the vague stirrings of some urge inside of me trying to answer the awful call of that music. I fought against the feeling, fought against myself. And even as I did, I found I was staring down into that valley, peering desperately into the dark mist, trying to see I don't know what. And then suddenly, the music ended. I stood on the rampart alone, dusk fallen about me, and the early night wind moaned with a chill breath. Quick terror rose up in me. I turned and ran on through the darkened streets, ran with heart pounding, dodging its shadows, through one dim alley after another, and arrived at last panting and almost breathless at the door of the Golden Bough.
You've been a long time returning, Mr. Llewellyn, it's past 7.
Yes, I guess I walked farther than I meant to. I didn't realize it was so late.
You heard the music, didn't you?
Yes. Yes, the strangest music I've ever heard. How did you know? Who plays it, anyway?
Then you didn't remember it?
No. Why should I? The thing was becoming irritating. This quiet insistence that I was someone else. I went into my lonely dinner and ate as quickly as possible. Then, taking the candle Dundreary gave me, I crossed the lobby, climbed the stairs behind the desk, and walked past silent doors down the long, empty hall that led to my room at the end. I was halfway to my door when suddenly the flame of my candle went out. I stood stock still in the pitch blackness, fumbling for a match. And at that moment I knew that someone or something was there with me in the darkness. I held my breath and listened. There was no sound, no movement. I reached out and found the wall and moved along and feeling my way in the inky blackness. It was then I touched it. Near my face, another soft, warm yielding. And alive. Who is it?
It is I, Ilse.
Who?
Ilse. Don't you remember me, Arthur?
No.
But wouldn't you like to remember me? Don't you want to see me again? To look at me? Now?
I don't know.
But not tonight, Arthur. Perhaps tomorrow. Tomorrow.
I stumbled blindly through the door of my room and shut it behind me. I lit the candle and flung myself across the bed. The room was small, with one shuttered window, and the light of the flame flickered on the walls and ceiling. I stared at the hand that had touched her out there in the dark hall. I lifted it to my face and smelled the barbaric scent that still clung to my fingers. It was evil and maddening. The candle sputtered and burned, and the melted minutes dripped away. Who was I? Who were these people? Who was Ilse? I fell asleep finally, and dreamed of soft-moving creatures and the silence of life in a dim, muffled world devoid of all feeling but ecstasy. And I dreamed, too, of cats.
You slept quite late this morning, Mr. Llewellyn.
Morning, Dundreary. I felt as though I'd been drugged.
The night air here in Malton is very conducive to sleep.
I'd meant to catch the morning train to London. Now it's too late.
What a terrible shame.
Yes, Oh, by the way, Dundreary.
Yes, Mr. Llewellyn?
Do you... I mean, I was wondering if you'd know anyone by the name of Ilse.
Ilse happens to be my daughter, Mr. Llewellyn.
Oh, I didn't hear you come in.
I hope you were able to sleep well, without unpleasant dreams.
I guess so.
I'm so happy to hear it. Perhaps then you may decide to stay with us for a long time.
That's very kind of you.
No, it's not kindness, Mr. Llewellyn. But all of us are hoping that you may decide soon.
Decide? Decide what? It was no use. None of them would answer my questions. They seemed to think I should know already. I left the inn as soon as I'd eaten, walked around the streets of the village. I began to notice I was never completely alone. If I turned down an empty street, someone always stepped from a doorway or entered from the opposite end. Wherever I went, within 5 minutes, a dozen people were strolling near me. And I realized these people were watching me, tensely, as a cat watches a mouse, or another cat.
It's quite fortunate you came back early, Mr. Llewellyn. Your dinner this evening is a rather special one.
Special? What do you mean by that?
You ought to have a guest.
Oh, who?
An old friend. She's coming now.
The girl who came toward us across the room was lithe and slim. She moved with the sinuous grace of a young panther. She was lovely, exotic, and terrifyingly beautiful.
May I present Mr. Arthur Llewellyn, Miss Ilse? He's been with us for 2 days.
Yes, I know. My mother told me. May I sit down, Mr. Llewellyn?
Oh, yes, please do. Here, permit me.
Thank you. You may serve us, Dundreary.
Thank you, Miss Ilse.
Then, you're Ilse?
Yes. Don't you remember me, Arthur?
From last night. It was you last night, wasn't it?
Yes, and other nights. Can't you remember all the other nights?
No. No.
Then we shall have to try that much harder. It's been such a very long time.
Please, Ilse. What is it all of you talk about? I don't understand any of it.
You will, Arthur. Unless you leave, of course. Weren't you planning to take a train to London in the morning?
Yes. No. No, I've changed my mind.
I'm glad you did. We'll try to make you happy here, my mother and I. And then perhaps you'll stay a long, long time.
No. I must leave for sure in a day or two.
Suppose we wait and see. And meanwhile, if there's anything you want, all you have to do is ask me.
All right. Why don't you tell me about...
Yes, Arthur? About what?
No. No, I don't want to know. I don't want you to tell me. Suddenly I realized I was afraid to know. I was afraid. I should leave now, but I couldn't leave. It was Ilse. She attracted, repelled, fascinated, and horrified me, all in single flashes of blasting emotion. I felt the presence of a great grey curtain ready to roll back at any moment and leave me on the brink of an awful adventure. And I knew the village held its breath, watched and waited. And then on the evening of the 5th day, the whole ghastly secret exploded into hideous life. After dinner, Ilse had asked me to walk with her. It was the first time I'd been outside the inn after dark. We walked through the village in the moonlight, saying very little, and came finally to the stone rampart above the sunken plain. We were quite alone.
Look, Arthur. It's a full moon tonight. Do you know what that means?
Yes. It means I can see more clearly how beautiful you are.
Do you really believe that? Do you think I'm beautiful?
Like a soft, sleek leopard in a warm jungle of shadows. But wait, I'll see you even better in a moment.
Arthur, what are you doing?
These dry leaves by the wall. They'll make an excellent bonfire. There. There, you see?
No. No.
What's wrong?
The fire. No, Arthur, put it out.
All right, Ilse. Don't worry, it's all right. There. Didn't even get a chance to get started. There, you see, it's out.
Yes, I see.
Why did it bother you so much?
Don't you remember the fire?
No. What fire?
No. Don't talk of it. Look at me instead. Look at me, Arthur.
Yes, Ilse?
Arthur, do you love me?
Yes. Yes, Ilsa, I love you.
I'm glad. That means you'll come back to us then.
I don't know what you mean, Ilsa.
You can know everything tonight, if you want to.
Yes, I do. I do, Ilsa.
You must know a part of it already, down inside. You must remember some of it, don't you?
Yes. It's like something buried for centuries, deep inside of me. Now it's beginning to come alive.
Let it come alive. Don't fight against it. You belonged to us once, long ago, and you still belong.
Yes. I seem to know that.
That's why you came back. You heard me calling. You heard them calling. And you came seeking the old life again.
Yes, but... Ilsa, I'm afraid.
Are you afraid of me? Look at me.
Ilsa.
Will you live the old life again? With me tonight?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I've known that you would, because I own you, Arthur. You belong to me, and I want you to come with me. I shall never let you escape from me again.
Yes, yes.
Go back to the inn, then. Wait for me, Arthur. I shall come for you. Tonight.
Back at the inn, I paced the floor of my room, a tense, uncontrollable excitement driving me along in a nervous frenzy. The dry crypt of the memory had broken open, and all the things I'd hidden away for centuries poured into my consciousness. I knew now why I'd come here. I knew what I was going to do. And I knew that I was lost. I sensed the rising stir of movement throughout the inn, and outside in the courtyard below my window. I knew what to expect when I threw open the window. From every window of the inn and from those of the houses about the court were leaping great monstrous beasts with soft dark fur and eyes that gleamed with eerie phosphorescence. Cats! Cats of human size. This was the secret of Molten. Lycanthropy. The witchcraft of centuries long dead and buried. The half-human cries floated up to me, and the moon cast their dark shadows on the ground as they padded across the courtyard and vanished through the narrow streets of the village, heading for a hideous rendezvous. This is what I'd been. This is what I wanted to be now. I scarcely heard the door of the room open behind me.
Are you ready, my love? Shall we join them?
Ilse.
Here, Arthur. The sacred bomb, made of vervain and mistletoe and blind things out of the sea. Remember?
Yes. Yes, I remember.
Take it. Use it. We'll change now. Transform. Leap from the window and join them. Lead us again, Arthur.
Yes. But not here, Ilsa. Not yet. Wait until we get there. Then we'll change.
If you wish. Come then, Arthur, to the stone wall above the grove. That's where we'll change, on the stone rampart.
In the grove on the sunken plain beneath the wall, insane shadows writhed in the moonlight and postured in the luminous mist. 1,000 of the devil's own were dancing in the unearthly music born from the harmony of the black sacrifice, crying out in delirious abandon, calling to the thing that now lived inside of me and struggled screaming in my skull, trying to answer them back. I fought against them, fought against Ilsa, pleading and clinging with her soft arms about my neck.
Now, Arthur, come with me now if you love me.
I love you, but I can't do it. I can't do it, not again, Ilsa.
Yes, my love, only an instant to change, and then we'll live forever.
Is it living without a soul?
Does it matter when I'm here?
No. No, once before I escaped. But I could never escape again. This time there'd be no turning back.
Am I not worth it? Look at me, my love.
I clung to the very edge of sanity, thought that I'd not be lost and damned forever. And at that very moment I knew what I could do.
Wait. What are you doing?
I found a match in my pocket, struck and dropped it into the dry leaves that lay banked along the whole length of the stone wall.
No, Arthur, don't.
I can't come to you through the fire. You're driving me away.
Yes, go. Go into the valley, Ilse. Goodbye, Ilse. Goodbye.
You fool. You fool.
I turned from the wall of flame that for a few minutes would shut me off from the valley, ran through the moonlit streets, not back toward the Inn of the Golden Bough, but down the long road that led away from that cursed village of Malton.
Well, Mr. Llewellyn, I find this one of the most interesting cases of hallucination I've encountered since I began the practice of psychiatry.
I tell you, it really happened, Doctor.
And having investigated your story a bit during the past week, I'm in a position now to answer most of the questions that have been worrying you since you came back to London.
What do you mean, investigated?
I went up to Hereford and looked over some of the old records there. And then I motored over to Malton for a couple of hours.
Well, then you know it's all true. You saw it. You know I was there.
Oh, there's no question but what you were there, Mr. Llewellyn. The lady who runs the inn showed me your name in the register. Said you'd left quite suddenly without taking your luggage or paying your bill. She was really quite put out.
I see. Well, what about the records, Doctor? The ones you spoke of?
I think they really explain the whole thing, Mr. Llewellyn. It seems that during the 14th century, the village of Malton became a kind of headquarters in that part of the country for the practice of witchcraft.
Yes. Go on.
Numerous trials were held there in the late 1300s, and a great many men and women were convicted of sorcery and burned to death.
Yes.
In the records of a trial in 1372, I found the name of an Arthur Llewellyn and of Ilse and her mother.
That proves it, then.
It proves a clear case of hallucination. You knew that story before you went there, not consciously, but somewhere down in your latent memory.
I knew nothing of it before.
That man was an ancestor of yours. The story must have been known in your family. When you arrived in Malton accidentally, the association of the name just pulled the trigger, and your imagination did the rest.
But, Doctor, my parents died when I was 4. I've never been around any of my family.
No matter. You see, a childhood memory is amazingly persistent at times.
Yes. Yes, I suppose it is. I knew then what I had to do. The only thing I could do. There'd be no use in talking further with the doctor. He'd find some phrase of science to cover everything. He'd even try to explain away the mark I still carried across my shoulder, where Ilse had thrown her arm about me in those last mad minutes on the rampart. A mark that was covered with a soft gray fur, like the fur of a cat. Yes, I knew now what had to be done, and must be done while I still retained my sanity. One last act, final and irrevocable. An act that begins by walking into the railway station at Charing Cross.
Good evening, sir. May I help you?
Yes. I'd like a ticket to Malton.
Malton? I don't believe I have.
It's a village on the Swansea line near the border of Wales.
Oh, yes. Yes, here it is. I don't believe I've ever sold a ticket to Malton before.
I don't doubt it.
Let's see now. 4 and 6. Single fare. First class. Did you wish a return or one way? What did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. I make it one way.
Escape. Produced by William N. Robeson and directed by Norman MacDonald, today brought you Ancient Sorceries by Algernon Blackwood. Adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with Paul Frees as Arthur Llewellyn, Kay Brinker as Ilsa, Ann Morrison as Madam, and William Conrad as the Doctor. Music is conceived by Cy Fewer, with Eddie Dunstetter at the console. Next week...
After you've had a hard day at the office or bending over a hot stove, next week at this time, when your problems seem too much for you, we offer you escape.
Next week, we bring you another exciting story of high adventure. Goodbye, then, until this same time next week, when once again we offer you escape. This is CBS, where 99 million people gather every week. The Columbia Broadcasting System.
From 76 years ago, February 21st, 1948, Escape on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit our webpage, classicradio.stream, classicradio.stream. Stream our shows, learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can find our social media links there, and if you're so inclined, you can buy me a coffee or purchase something from that page to help support our podcasts. Up next, Gerald Mohr in the Adventures of Philip Marlowe.
And now, a brief reminder from Uncle Sam that to the millions of American men and women overseas, nothing is more important than mail from home. Write often. Make your letters cheerful. And be sure to use V-mail. V-mail is private, speedy, safer, and it helps to lighten the burden of delivery.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, an episode of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, starring Gerald Mohr, Ladies' Night in a Turkish Bath. This goes back 74 years ago to February 21st, 1950.
Get this and get it straight. Crime is a sucker's road, and those who travel it wind up in the gutter, the prison, or the grave. This time a peddler of pulp paper love, a blackmailer with muscles, a south-of-the-border chiseler, a simpering prude, and a corpse in a bedroom. All had one thing in common. Each was a woman. It happened like this.
From the pen of Raymond Chandler, outstanding author of crime fiction, comes his most famous character in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. Now, with Gerald Mohr starred as Philip Marlowe, we bring you tonight's exciting story, The Ladies' Night.
In a moment, the sauce is boiling furiously, which is right now. Add 1 full cup of tomato paste gradually and stir vigorously. Okay? 1 full cup of tomato paste gradually. Oh, no, not now. I'll be a minute. Yeah, I said I'll be... Oh no. Ooh, ow. All right. So I add tomato paste, cup and all. Okay, I'm coming. Who is it?
Western Union, telegram for Philip Marlowe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to... But Kay Vanneman.
Yes, darling, staunch friend Kay. Am I welcome? Me and my small Western Union Joe?
Oh, sure. Come on in. Come on in, honey. We'll go in the kitchen.
Oh, it's not Marlowe playing chef again. What is it this time?
Well, sauce a la Marino. What's on your poor little rich girl's 14-carat mind tonight?
You. It's Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yes. This is meeting night in my crowd. The Greens Committee at the Country Club, the Beverly Hills Male Choir, the veterans of this and that. So, no men left.
Oh, except staunch friend Marlowe, huh? Look, Kay, baby, just because I...
I know it by heart, Phil. Just because brave private detective once saved rich Uncle Enoch's niece, Kay, baby, from lots of trouble.
For which he was well paid.
There's no reason why they've got to go on seeing each other. Well, mister, you're wrong. There is a reason, a big, fat one. I like you. Lots.
You do?
Especially on Tuesdays.
I can't tell you how happy that makes me. Now,
I'm
look.
not being too bold, am I? I did call, 3 times. You weren't home all day.
It didn't discourage you.
If I can't have you, I'll take the doorstep.
Tuesdays.
On Tuesdays. Now, about this sauce a la whatchamacallit. What do we do first? Fish out the cup or wait for it to melt?
Well, it all depends. If we want to, Hey, that thing sticking out of your pocket, real telegram or prop for gag?
Oh, no prop, real thing.
Oh?
I met the boy in front of your door. Here.
Open it up, will you? My hands are greasy.
So I noticed. Over there, self-reliant. It's called Soap and Water.
Oh. Well, read it, dear. Straight like, huh?
Okay, straight like. Tried to reach you all day. Very important.
Uh-huh.
Meet me at the Tulip Room, Sunset Strip at 8 tonight. We'll pay
Tulip
you
Room.
triple your fee. Time means everything. Gigi Ormsby.
You know her? Give me the towel, will you?
Yeah, I think... Sure, she's the demon editor for Passman House.
Who published what?
Magazines, Torrid Love, Great Passions. You know, the shop girl's encyclopedia.
Uh-huh. Well, now tell me, shop girl, where'd you meet editor Gigi Ormsby?
At a cocktail party about a year ago. She's quite a character. Sleek to look at.
And listen to?
Oh, someplace between a career woman and a Marine sergeant.
Credit good?
Excellent. Uncle Enoch once shook hands with her, and that's better than Dun and Brad. Hey, where are you going?
The Don jacket and professional demeanor. Both are going to the Tulip Room.
Phil, can
but
I-
you're not.
Phil, that's not fair. This is
And the
Tuesday.
sauce a la Marino needs 1 measuring cup removed. A delicate woman's touch from here on in. Bye-bye, Kay. You're a staunch friend indeed. The Tulip Room was one of those extra chic spots, curled up at the foot of the Hollywood Hills, where the velvet and the maitre d's tone of voice made you sure you had egg on your vest. But that plus the crew-cut glamour girls who lined the booths and shrilled darling no matter what was said, made finding my prospective client that much easier. In severely tailored banker's gray flannel, she stood out among the neighboring naked shoulders like a wart on a cue ball, as did her voice, which once it had gone through the introductions, came right to the point.
Marlowe, my problem is simple. I want to find a woman in a hurry. Her name is Henrietta Lawrence. She's a good hack writer who disappeared, I know not why. Health.
Likewise.
Now, here it is. 1, 2, 3. A couple of weeks ago, Henrietta Lawrence showed up in my office from someplace like Seattle or Portland, I forget which, and handed me an outline for a 3-installment serial story that was excellent, according to our standards. 3 days ago, she brought in the first 2 installments, also excellent. But the day before yesterday, when the 3rd installment was due, I was sitting in my office window when this happened. She only got as far as the front door.
What happened?
I don't know. She saw somebody going by slowly in a car. Scared the daylights out of her, and she hobbled for a cab.
Wait a minute. Did you say hobbled?
Yes, she limps. Uses
Oh.
a cane. Anyway, she piled into this cab and took off. Haven't had a word from her since. I'm worried, Marlowe. She's a nervous thing, the kind who'd go to pieces, little ones fast. So I want you...
Gigi Ormsby, oh, as I live and breathe this stale nightclub bed, darling, how are you?
Busy, Jeanette, busy.
So I see. And what's the handsome gentleman's name, or am I supposed to guess?
It's Dracula, darling. We're counting the white throats. Goodbye.
Oh, Gigi, you're priceless.
Goodbye, Jeanette. This is business strictly.
Well, I was only being friendly. Excuse me, darling. Happy business.
Oh, what they let loose after dark. Anyhow, Marlowe, I want you to find this girl. She may be in an awful jam. Now, what do you want to know?
Well, description might help, Gigi.
Okay. Henrietta's about 35 on the drab side. No makeup, no jewelry. Each time I saw her, she was wearing the same thing. A plain brown coat, a plainer brown hat, low heels. All in all, the sex appeal of a tumbleweed.
Mm-hmm. Last address you had on her?
It's the only one. The Brace Hotel for Women, room 7. It's over on Fountain near La Cienega. But she hasn't checked back there in 2 days either. The giggling flower of the old South desk clerk I talked to on the phone today hasn't the slightest idea where she is. But I figure for you, she might, Marlowe. She's probably got a face like wet hemp. Her name is Clarice.
Well, we'll try it. Where can I reach you, Gigi?
At my home in Brentwood. Sunnyside 9, 1011.
1011?
Yeah, I'll stay next to the phone. Really do your best, will you, Marlowe?
Okay, Gigi. It'll be my best, all right. Don't worry about it. I'll call you.
Good evening. Brace Hotel. One moment, please. Go ahead. Oh, hello. Can I help you?
Are we alone? Is the switchboard closed?
Why, yeah.
Good. You see, I'm a private detective named Marlowe, Clarice.
A private detective? And you know my name.
Oh, we find things out.
Oh, how can poor little old me help you?
Well, it's about Henrietta Lawrence, the girl with the cane.
Mhm.
She's in trouble, and I think it's a man.
So do I.
Who?
Well, I don't know.
You sure?
Positive. She was always so quiet, so mysterious. It was enough to make a body curious.
Oh.
So one night I followed her. She went to Annie Stringer's Hollywood Health Club. That's a ladies' Turkish bath over on Santa Monica Boulevard in Doheny.
Well, maybe she ducked in there because she knew you were following her.
Oh, no, I was very careful. Besides, she had something to say to a woman there. I know I saw him talking in the doorway when I went by. Couldn't see who it was, though.
No man, huh?
No. But I keep my eyes open when she comes back.
Oh, you do just that. Keep 'em wide open, Clarice. They're lovely eyes.
Oh.
Good night, honey. My client was wrong. Clarice did not have a face like wet hemp. It was more like a batch of biscuits, but the body curious had provided a lead. As far as the corner of Santa Monica and Doheny, and into the white antiseptic-looking reception room of Annie Stringer's Hollywood Health Club. Women only.
My husband said it.
There I forgot about Clarice, hemp, and biscuits alike and thought instead about something a whole lot tastier. Like the girl who was leaning on the corner of a desk marked information while she made pencil marks on a chart. She looked up when I closed the door and started toward me. But when another door in the room opened and a woman who was built like a sack of cement bore down on me, she turned back to her chart.
Yes, sir. Can I help you? I'm Annie Stringer. We don't have a men's section here, if that's what you wanted.
No, it was something else, Miss Stringer.
Annie'll do.
Oh.
Name's my stock and trade. Something else like what?
Henrietta Lawrence. I'm looking for her.
Who are you, mister? What's your name?
Philip Marlowe. I'm a friend of Henrietta's from Portland. They told me over at the Brace Hotel that Henrietta might be at your place. You see, someone had seen her come in here once.
Henrietta Lawrence, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, name doesn't mean anything to me, but...
Honey, Mrs. Horton wants you to come beat her a while.
All right, Hilda, be right there. I don't recall anyone by that name, Mr. Marlowe, but you might check with my receptionist there. Take care of the gentleman, will you, Mona, dear?
Very well, Annie.
I'm coming, Mrs. Gordon.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Marlowe, Mona, dear. Philip Marlowe.
Marlowe. Well, I don't recall any Henrietta Lawrence ever having been with us, but why don't we check the registration cards at my desk and be sure? I might be mistaken.
All right. She's a woman about 35. She wears no makeup and...
Never mind.
Huh?
I know her, amigo.
What?
Just listen. You see, Mr. Marlowe, the cards here list everyone who ever visits the club. Why do you really want Henrietta Lawrence?
Well, I'm a private detective with interested clients.
Who has money, amigo?
It could be. What's your connection here?
Receptionist.
Oh.
And good friend to Annie. Her, confidant, you might say.
All right, say it.
Meet me in the alley behind the hardware store across the street in a half hour. We close then. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Marlowe, but we don't seem to have any listing of a Henrietta Lawrence. But perhaps in the
No,
future...
never mind. Thanks just the same.
Well, you're quite welcome. Don't keep me waiting, amigo.
I killed most of the 30-minute wait at an all-night beanery a block away where I drank bad coffee and listened to a special monologue from a waitress, which was worse. And at exactly 10:30, I stepped into the street and walked to the alley behind the hardware store. Moved cautiously toward the dark shadow of the building until a hand that gripped like a bear trap snapped shut on my upper arm, while another locked my wrist high into my back.
Move 1 inch, Mr. Marlowe, and I'll break it off and hand it to you. I was a lady wrestler, understand?
Oh, do I still call you Annie?
Never mind the wisecracks. It's been a long day, and I haven't got patience. Now, what's your angle, Flatfoot?
This! Slip, baby, in more ways than one. Start talking.
All right. Henrietta came from Seattle, not Portland. So now some advice. Forget Henrietta Lawrence, Shamus. You can't do her any good.
You're a liar, Annie, and you know it.
Wasting your breath, Shamus.
That's bluff, Annie. Hot air.
Yeah? I suppose that goes for the letter, too, I suppose.
Letter? You slipped again, kid.
What about it? You don't know what letter I'm talking about. But Mr. Marlowe, Henrietta Lawrence does. So tell her to call off the bloodhound, or that letter will go right to the cops. They'll know exactly what to do with it.
Get going.
Oh,
Kay.
what
I'll blow the top of your head off. Go on, feed it while you can still walk. Go.
All right. But I'll be around, Marlowe. So don't forget the message I gave you for Miss Lawrence.
In just a moment, the second act of Philip Marlowe. But first, the kindly physician of River's End, Dr. Christian, will meet the spirit of George Washington in a most unusual way this Wednesday night when Dr. Christian tells his story on most of these same CBS stations. An elderly patient who claims to have a personal message from George Washington comes to Dr. Christian's office and presents him with one of his most perplexing cases. Dr. Christian, starring Gene Hersholdt, is a regular Wednesday night feature. Now, with our star, Gerald Mohr, we return to the second act of Philip Marlowe and tonight's story, The Ladies' Night.
Kay watched Annie Stringer lumber out of sight down the alley. And she turned, tossed me an "I told you so" smile and lit a cigarette for me.
Here. Well, I guess it's a good thing I chucked that scullery maid routine and followed you after all, wasn't it?
Look, I've already said thanks, so go ahead. Get real corny. Rub it in. Marlowe pinned by a woman.
That was no woman, Phil. It was the late Gargantua's cousin.
Yeah, I was also outnumbered and surrounded. By the way, where's your gun, Kay?
I don't have any gun, just
What?
a lot of bluff and curiosity about what you were doing out here in the alley with a creature like that.
I was taking a judo lesson.
By correspondence, maybe? What was all that about a letter?
Well, for my money, the way things stack up, G.G. Ormsby's top writer, one Henrietta Lawrence, is being blackmailed by Annie Stringer, and that letter is Annie's protection. Goes to the cops if anything. Kay, get outside quick.
What? What's the matter? Marlowe, not another one.
Yeah, my date, Duck. Will you go on? It's important.
All right, but don't forget you're a sucker for a hammerlock, so watch it. Phil? Senor Marlowe?
Over here, Mona.
Oh, see. You are here. Are we alone?
Yeah, we're alone.
Good. It is worth my life what I'm going to tell you. And we like me alive, no?
Look, what is it, Mona? You know something about Henrietta Lawrence?
See, more than enough. There's a certain letter.
Oh, you know about that, huh?
Sure. I know where it is and what it says.
Bless you, baby. Where is it? I want that letter bad.
It's nice.
Nice?
See. And I would love to give it to you for nothing, but...
But what?
But my poor mother, she needs an operation. My father, the mortgage on their aunt.
Your little sister wants music lessons? Come on, kid. How much?
How much is the life of Henrietta Lawrence worth, Phil, dear? To me, to you, to Henrietta Lawrence.
Her life, huh? I'll see what I can do.
You better do real good, amigo. It's a very serious thing. I take a great risk. Annie Stringer is stupid, but she's also strong like a bull. Come to my apartment. 8310 North Ardmore, number D. 1 hour.
D, huh? Okay, I'll be there.
Good. And please, amigo, you don't hold hard feelings against me. Not for this. You know, business is business. Pleasure is pleasure, no? Maybe we can mix them. In an hour. I'll be waiting for you, Phil.
How do you like that?
It was as touching a little scene as I've ever witnessed.
Skip it, Kay. This deal is liable to get rough before it's over, and I've got a call to make. Let's go.
And I was dumb enough to warn you against the hammerlock. The hammerlock that kid holds is like a pat on the head. Can I go with you just for laughs?
Yeah. We're going to call on my client. You're scramming. Come on.
Hello.
Marlowe, Gigi, got a line on Henrietta, but you're not going to like it much.
What do you mean? How does it go, Marlowe?
Trouble is, she's got blackmail. I don't know what the hook is, but I have word of one of the bargainers is plenty serious.
Who's doing it, Phil?
A female mastodon named Annie Stringer's the big wheel. I got onto it through a letter.
A letter?
Yeah. Annie wrote her a protection letter. It's got all the dirt in it and goes to the cops if anything happens to Annie. It's a standard routine.
Where is this letter? Who has it?
There's a double-crossing little Spanish number named Mona. I'm supposed to meet her again in an hour at her place.
Phil, we must get that letter.
Yeah, it's no cinch, Gigi. Mona's not bright, but she's sly. It's liable to be expensive.
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
Anything I can do to help Henrietta, I want to do now more than ever.
What does that mean?
I've heard from her, Marlowe. She called me just a few minutes ago.
Where was she?
That's the tough part. She was crying. Said was the end of everything. She tried to tell me about the last installments of the story, then she was interrupted. She gasped out something that sounded like American Airlines ticket office. Then the line went dead. There are 3 of those offices in town.
Yeah. Well, we better check them. Look, can you take the one out in Beverly Hills? I'll get the others.
All right. And Marlowe, where does this Spanish dame live?
North Ardmore, 8310, apartment D.
I'll meet you there in an hour.
When Gigi hung up, I sent Kay to check the airline office in Hollywood for a woman carrying a cane and a big load of trouble, telling her to call me at the downtown agency within half an hour. Then I headed south for the office on 6th Street. Halfway down, it began to rain. You know, the kind of dismal, misty drizzle that makes your clothes smell like blankets at a fire sale? I spent a fruitless half hour peeking into corners and trading descriptions, and finally, when Kay called in a negative report from the Hollywood office, it was high time to beat it out to my appointment with Mona. The rain had put enough dazzling sheen on the pavement to make the going slow and slick. But I got out to 8310 Ardmore not over a minute late. Apartment D was the last on the right and completely dark. As I walked toward it, I found myself following a set of feminine footprints rapidly filling with water. And besides each left print was a little round hole. By the time that registered on me, I was already at the door and could hear her crying inside. I didn't wait to knock. Mona! Mona, it's me, Marlowe. For Pete's sake, what happened to you?
Phil, that woman was here waiting for me in the dark. She had a big club. When I came in, she grabbed me and beat me with it.
It was a cane. Not that it makes any difference now. Hey, your apartment's a wreck. She got the letter, huh?
See, she got it, and look. Look at this awful
Later.
bruise.
Right now I want to know what that letter said, and you can forget about me paying the Mexican national debt for it. I want it free and fast. Come on, what's Annie got on Henrietta Lawrence?
All right. She knows it.
What?
Somebody's outside there.
Oh, it's Gigi. Come on in, Gigi.
Hello, Phil. Who's this, the tortilla pounder you told me about?
Just a minute, you can't.
All right, hold it. Take it easy.
You're a lousy housekeeper, sister. What happened? Your hat dance get out of control?
Now, wait a minute. Henrietta scooped this Gigi. She was here and got the letter herself.
She what?
Yes. We were just talking about the letter when you came in. Now, let's get on with it, Mona. What's Big Annie's pitch?
Supposing I won't tell you now.
Then I'll have you in the pokey for attempted extortion before you can say Pancho Robinson beautiful. Come on.
Well, okay.
That's better.
For you, amigo, I tell. I don't know what Henrietta Lawrence means to this dragon here, but she's a murderer.
Well, you lying little tamale tosser. That's impossible. Henrietta's a fine girl.
You know what you're saying, Mona?
Sure I do. I read the letter, didn't I? Henrietta Lawrence killed a woman in Seattle 4 years ago. Annie saw her do it. She had names, dates, places, everything.
I can't believe it. I just can't. She's such a swell person. Look, she even left this, the final installment of the story, for me in that Wilshire ticket office. What'll we do, Phil? We gotta help her.
Okay. Since neither she nor Annie counted on Mona here reading the letter, the best way to help her is to try to keep her from committing another murder.
What, are you crazy? What are you talking about?
Come on, Gigi, get with it. The letter was worthless except as Annie's string as protection. Yet Henrietta went to all the trouble of getting it. Why? So she could shut Annie up, and there's only one way to do that.
Kill her. Holy mackerel, I didn't even think.
You should, Senora. You got nothing else to work with.
Drop dead.
Stop it, both of you.
Oh, crazy.
Better stay clear of it from here on, Gigi. Go home and wait for me.
Okay, Phil, whatever you say. Call me as soon as you can.
Sure. All right, come on, Mona, let's go.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, no, amigo. The letter's gone, and so is Mona's interest. I'm very tired.
Now listen, you cut yourself in on this right up to your sombrero. You know, Annie, so you may be able to help me. It's that or spend the night in the cooler. Add it up, sweetheart. On delay.
All right. You're so forceful, amigo. Come on, let's go.
Well, Annie's not in her apartment, and she's not around the health club. What's next, Mona? Where else would she be?
Search me, amigo.
Think, will you? Has she had any appointments lately that didn't fit with her regular routine?
Well, she went out on Fountain Avenue in a big hurry a couple of
Fountain
days.
Avenue. That's where Henrietta's been staying, in a hotel out there.
The Brace Hotel?
That's it, on the nose. Is Annie dumb enough to go there now tonight?
Sure. She's stupid. And her strength makes her reckless.
That's it, let's go. on, Mona. It's here on the first floor.
Hey there. Now, just one moment there. Where do you think you're... Oh, it's you again, Mr. Marlowe.
Yeah, it's me again,
So
Clarice.
You're
Now,
looking for that Miss Lawrence in number 7?
Uh-huh.
Well, you're sure in luck, Mr. Marlowe. She's in now. She came back about a half hour ago with her friend, the biggest woman I ever saw.
Annie, it's true, amigo. You were right.
Yeah, come on. Let's get back there.
Oh, Mr. Marlowe, you can't go back there. You're a man, and this hotel is for
Now,
women
look, sis,
only.
you got a pass key there, haven't you? Come on. This entire night from start to finish has been for women only. Getting sick and tired of it, present company included. And where's number 7?
Phil, this is it right here.
Henrietta! Unlock it, Clarice, fast. Get back.
Annie. Dead. With a knife.
Yeah. Go ahead and scream, Clarice. Get it over with.
Well, where's Miss Lawrence?
She, no doubt, left by the window here. Yeah, it's still open. Only 5 feet to the ground and a clear set of footprints in the wet dirt, cane marks and all, just like...
Just like what, Mr. Marlowe?
I started to say like the ones I saw earlier. Sure, the last installment of the story, the letter at Mona's, the airline ticket. Now she's out of it, slick as a whistle. Clarice, call the cops. Here, give them my card. I'll get in touch.
Well, where you going, Mr. Marlowe?
To break the unpleasant news as gently as possible to my client.
Phil, what about me? What will I do now?
Just keep looking at Annie, you beautiful, chiseling, double-crossing jerk. Maybe you'll learn something, but I'm not going to count on it.
Phil.
Gigi had a lot of lights on in a glossy Brentwood house. And as I walked up the wet, curving flagstones to a door, I could see her inside, pacing slowly back and forth, an impatient cigarette in one hand, a stiff brace of brandy in the other. Whatever Gigi Ormsby really thought or felt about Henrietta Lawrence then, I couldn't tell. But I was sure that before I left, she was going to despise her.
Phil, I've been waiting for you to phone me. Something bad, isn't it? I can see it in your face.
We found Annie Stringer's body, Gigi, in Henrietta's hotel room.
Ah, what a dirty, dirty shame. And Henrietta?
Gone. But she won't get far, not this time. The circle gets smaller every time. She can't keep on killing. It's got to stop someplace.
Yeah, I suppose so. But I'm sorry for her, Phil. I hope she got a plane ticket tonight and is miles away by morning. I hope she gets a break this time.
She didn't buy a ticket. She's not even running. And she won't get that break.
You talk as if you know where she is, do you?
Mm-hmm. You've been to Seattle, haven't you, Gigi?
Well, of course, but not for years.
You lived there. You were a writer before you became a publisher.
Why? What is this?
You knew Annie Stringer long before tonight, too, Gigi, huh?
What are you driving at, Marlowe?
That your real name is Henrietta Lawrence, that you killed a woman in Seattle once, changed your name, and got away, but there was a witness. And a couple of weeks ago, purely by chance, that witness, Annie Stringer, ran into you, recognized you as Henrietta, and grabbed at the chance for blackmail.
Stop it, Marlowe.
So you had to bring Henrietta Lawrence back to life, just long enough to get rid of the witness. But first you had to get a letter she'd written, and also have someone who tell a straight story to the cops. So you hired me, planted the right leads along the way. Get away from that desk! Don't try it, Gigi. You can't win, so at least lose gracefully, will you?
If this was in one of my books, no one would believe it. You're right, I can't win. It's all true, Phil. Where was the loophole?
It started only as a hunch, but everything fit. I got it from the cane you used, Gigi, at Mona's place. The cane marks were on the left side of your tracks, but outside the hotel window, they were on the right. Anybody who really has to use a cane couldn't do that.
Such a little thing.
As a matter of fact, it was.
Look, Marlowe, you're the only person between me and that break. I got more money than I know what to do with. I can bid high, really high. You wouldn't be for sale, would you?
No, baby. Just for hire. Get your coat, Gigi. We're going down to headquarters. Getting the whole business down on police stationery, one orderly step at a time, was a process as full of, well, as full as the fiscal report of the First National Bank. Took twice as long to whip up. But finally it was all over. I was on my way home to my bachelor apartment. then I remembered something.
Never mind explaining what took you so long, darling. You're here now. Dinner is ready and waiting, and the martinis are ice cold. Just come on in and close the door.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, bringing you Raymond Chandler's most famous character, star Gerald Mohr, are produced and directed by Norman MacDonald and are written for radio by Robert Mitchell and Gene Levitt. Featured in the cast were Jeanette Nolan, G.B. Hunter, Constance Crowder, Lillian Baeff, Gene Bates, and Michael Ann Barrett. The special music is composed and conducted by Richard Orant. Be sure and be with us again next week when Philip Marlowe says...
This time, a friend with millions, a myopic chemist, and a long-haired piano player were thrown into a panic because a brilliant young lady with a gun was taking a big step in the wrong direction.
'CBS wishes to remind you that Lum and Abner's wonderful down-to-earth Cracker Barrel humor is heard every week on most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
"74 years ago, February 21st, 1950, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Tomorrow, The Lives of Harry Lime, Big Town, Dragnet, Lineup, and Counterspy. More crime drama. Up next, the Hallmark Hall of Fame.
Remember, the government ruling is you must register your tires or you cannot get any gas. So act tomorrow to register yours.
Hallmark greeting cards spent a lot of time in radio and television producing quality, dramatic, and comedic and musical entertainment. This episode of the Hallmark Hall of Fame goes back 70 years to February 21st, 1954.
Remember, a Hallmark card when you care enough to send the very best. Tonight, from Hollywood, the makers of Hallmark cards bring you a dramatic true story from the life of Simon Bolivar on the Hallmark Hall of Fame. And here is our distinguished host, Mr. Lionel Barrymore.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hallmark Hall of Fame. Tomorrow, we celebrate George Washington's birthday. As Washington fought for our independence and became the father of our country, so did Simon Bolivar bring democracy and freedom to South America. And the great liberator, Washington, was his constant source of inspiration. Tonight, we tell you the true story of Simon Bolivar's saddest and greatest moment. Now here's Frank Goss.
365 days a year, hearts are lightened by Hallmark cards. Happy days are made happier, lonely days become no longer lonely. And every day is a brighter day when the mail brings a Hallmark card. For Hallmark cards are more than just a message of cheer or sympathy or love. They are the right message, thoughtfully expressed in the right design, the right words. And that hallmark on the back shows that you cared enough to send the very best. Lionel Barrymore appears by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, who celebrate their 30th anniversary at your favorite theater with The Long, Long Trailer, starring Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. And now Mr. Barrymore brings you tonight's exciting story on the Hallmark Hall of Fame.
Attempts at freedom in South America failed. Simon Bolivar, commander of the Revolutionary Army, was forced to flee to the safety of British Jamaica. Spain was strong. The cause of freedom, weak. Bolivar, with only a handful of men and without funds, tried desperately to hold the revolution together.
The men are beginning to grumble about the training, General.
Oh?
They say they are so few that it is useless to consider them even part of an army.
The next time they complain, Lieutenant Amistoy, explain that though they are few, they are the most important part of the new army. These men here will be training the others when the time comes. All of you, tell that to your men.
Yes, General.
Tomorrow as usual. Good day, gentlemen.
Good day, sir.
Lieutenant Amistoy. Felix. Were you talking about the men or yourself?
I suppose I was talking about our situation, my General. At times it seems as if we stand still, waiting to do nothing ever again.
No one is more aware of our circumstance than myself. We will have an army, Felix. Felix, word has come that the ship Avon arrives sometime this night from New Granada. I want you to meet her. Ignacio Iturbe may be aboard. If so, bring him here to me. Iturbe may have been able to raise money that will help us gather our army.
I would sell my soul to swing a sword at Monteverde just once before I die.
We will all do that. Now go. Go, and God go with you.
I say.
There is no need for that.
Be recognized.
I am here to see General Bolivar. Can you take me to him?
Guard, has Lieutenant Amistoy returned yet? What is this?
Sir?
Are you the officer in charge here?
I am.
Then it is most urgent that you take me to His Excellency at once.
All right, on your post, man.
Yes, General.
What is your business with the General?
My name is Annette Benet. My home is on this island. I assure you what I have to say to him is very important.
So, in that case, you may speak. I am Simon Bolivar.
You are the General?
Yes.
Somehow I understood he was a much older man.
What is so urgent?
I have been visiting in New Granada. I have just returned on the Avon. There was a man among the passengers named Cordoba. He is a Spanish officer on Captain Monteverde's staff. Although he was not in uniform, I recognized him.
Cordoba? I know of him. Did he land here?
Yes, he is on Jamaica at this moment. Is he not a threat to you?
Any Spanish officer is a threat to me. I believe there is a price on my head.
On the boat, there were many of your countrymen. They spoke of a great man named Bolivar and told how he would free a whole land. Is this the way a great man reacts to the news that he is in danger?
I thank you for the warning. You are interested in freedom? In the revolution?
No, I am not, General. Your revolution means war and death. I have seen enough of that. Good night, Your Excellency.
Good night, Annette Benet.
Water is cool. You cannot go on this way, Patron. A man with a fever must sleep and rest.
The dreams are worse than going without a rest. That is much better, Carlos. Thank you.
General.
Felix, I've been waiting for you.
I came as quickly as I could.
All right, Carlos.
Don Pablo Morillo and 10,000 Spanish troops have been ordered to sail from Cadiz. 34 warships, 70 transports.
They mean to stop us once and for all, eh?
Yes, and they will unless we act.
How is the resistance in the cities?
Useless. Our people are helpless. There is no one to protect them. They are without hope. They say the revolution is ended. A peasant cries out and he is flayed alive. The Spanish offer a peso apiece for Republican ears. This is the way they are replanting the Spanish crown on our country. General, listen to me. I have spoken to the others. Our people would rather die than live under the Spanish. We could go back by night and cross the country by night and raise an army by night. We have time before Murillo lands his troops.
And then we would meet his 10,000 with a half-starved, unequipped band of men who have never seen a battlefield. No, once we tried that, I saw my men cut down like grass at Porto Cablo.
We have right on our side, General, and that is strength.
Our enemies have muskets and 5 years in the field on their side.
The others want to go, Marino, Mendez, Rivas. They have no wish to stay here and rot. Nor do I. What will we do, General?
We will wait. Soon we will have answer from London. It would be advantageous for England to assist us at this moment. I have every reason to believe the Foreign Office will listen to my petition. In the interim, we wait.
Is that what you want me to tell the others?
Yes. Tell them we still wait. Felix? Felix, I wait too, old friend.
Forgive me, General. Forgive me.
Forgive you for thinking only of your country. If all thought and fought as you, my friend, the revolution would have been won long ago. What news of Ignacio Iturbi?
He is dead, my General.
Dead?
Murdered by a faithful servant as he slept on board ship. They say it was engineered by one of Monteverde's officers. He hires people to kill.
What officer?
A man named Córdoba.
General.
May I come in?
Of course.
It seemed somehow that I should see you to thank you again for the warning of last night.
The warning meant nothing to you then? It means something to you now?
Yes, my men are on the watch for Córdoba.
You look at me so strangely.
The warning was not the true reason you came to me last night. Was it merely to look at me and make something certain in your own mind?
Yes. Some things must be certain, General. They tell me you spend many hours sitting out there watching the sea.
I look at the land beyond the sea. My land.
Is your wife there, General?
My wife is buried on a hill above Paris.
Then you have a sweetheart across the sea?
No.
Being a soldier is not a complete life. A man must have a woman. Or are you satisfied to be in love with freedom? To sit and wait and sharpen your weapons to go back to the killing?
You puzzled me before. You puzzle me now.
I do not like your war and your revolution and your cry for freedom.
It is a just cause and it is my life.
And your love. My brother believed as you believe. He died fighting for your freedom in one of your armies.
What was your brother's name?
Louis Benet. He was killed at Porto Cablo.
I'm sorry.
But the cause is just. Do you leave?
I disturb you. It seems we cannot talk.
It is because I cannot talk of armies and revolution and freedom. Is that all that is inside of you? You came here tonight to sit and speak to a woman.
Yes, that is why I am here.
How long has it been since you have spoken to a woman?
Weeks. Months, perhaps.
And how long has it been since you have kissed a woman?
A century.
Stay with me a while, Simon Bolivar. Stay with me.
I walked here once by the sea when I was a very young man.
And did you dream of revolution even then?
I dreamed of freedom for my people. I dreamed of the French Revolution and of the United States and of a man named Washington.
Washington?
General George Washington. He led his people to freedom, as I shall lead mine.
And was it hard for him?
For him there was Valley Forge, as I have my island of Jamaica. And as he conquered despair, so shall I.
Is there to be no life for Simon Bolivar, the man? Is he to give nothing to himself?
Annette, do you believe I have never said those same words to myself? Oh, yes, and I have done more. Many times I have promised myself that I will leave the revolution. I will go to France or Italy and take another life. It will never happen. The moon is failing, Annette. I must return.
But if the revolution should... If it all fails, you would come to me?
I would come to you, Annette.
In just a moment, we return to the second act of the Hallmark Hall of Fame. Yesterday afternoon, I shopped for a friend's birthday present, and as usual, I debated a half dozen times before I finally decided on something I felt was right for him. Then I picked up a Hallmark card to go with the gift, and I thought again, how easy and how much fun it is to choose a Hallmark card. There, right in front of you, is a selection so wide and so varied, you find cards that seem to be designed personally for each person you know. For your friends who love a laugh, there are all kinds of humorous Hallmark cards. And then for friends whose taste runs to the artistic, you can choose from scores of beautiful designs created by Hallmark artists. The verses by gifted writers. These are cards that will be saved to be enjoyed again and again. And for those dear ones whose greatest happiness lies in your love for them, there are Hallmark cards that tell them sincerely and unforgettably of your feeling. You see, for every person in your circle of friendship and affection, there are Hallmark cards that say just what you want to say, the way you want to say it. And the Hallmark and crown on the back says, you care enough to send the very best. And now Lionel Barrymore brings you the second act of our true story of Simon Bolivar.
Anticipated invasion of British Jamaica by the Spanish didn't occur. But for Simon Bolivar, there was the eternal waiting. For men, for food, for money. And as the waiting grew longer, the strength of the great Liberator grew weaker. Then one night, a visitor came to see him, Maxwell Hyslop, an envoy of the Duke of Manchester, who was then governor of Jamaica.
How is he? Worse than when you saw him last, Senor Hyslop. The spells come and go more frequently now. Most of the time he is burning with fever or shaking with cold. He will not rest. He paces back and forth like a caged animal.
Can't you do anything for him? Make him comfortable?
I am only his servant. It is something else, something worse than the fever which tears at him now. He has been most anxious for the answer from England. He will be pleased to see you.
Max, old friend, welcome, welcome. The sight of you does me good. Carlos, have we wine?
No, please, General. This is only a short visit.
Nonsense. See if we have a glass around
General,
here,
I could not drink your wine.
Huh?
Not with the kind of news I bring you now. It would choke me.
Sit down.
Will there be anything?
No. That is all, Carlos. See.
General, the papers you so carefully prepared were brought to the attention of the Foreign Office by Mr. Richard Wellesley. England's advantage in assisting you to raise men-at-arms to fight the Spanish is without question.
Max, you can speak to me. What did they say?
They sympathize with you, General, but they cannot help you.
Are they aware that Monteverde is in Caracas, growing stronger by the hour? Do they know about Morillo's fleet? Do they understand that this new Spain under Ferdinand is more decadent and more treacherous than the old one? Where are England's great statesmen these days? Of course, they know all these things. They knew them before I did.
There were some other comments. Some members of Parliament did not feel that Latin America is ready for independence yet. Others refuse to believe there is a revolution.
For 300 years, my countrymen have been starved and slaughtered by the Spanish crown. When is a nation ready to rule itself?
The Duke of Manchester asked me to see you, General. I am repeating his instructions.
Yes, I know. Forgive my impatience, Max.
May I speak not as a representative of the governor?
No, we are friends, Max. We are old friends.
Then I know the humiliation it has caused you asking for help abroad. I hoped, as you hoped, that the Foreign Office would give you funds and help you rearm and fight back. I am truly sorry that they have acted otherwise, but if not English help, perhaps some other source. Pétion, the president of Haiti, he believes in freedom.
Yes, perhaps some other source.
Your country is not dead as long as your sword exists, and you will go back some way, somehow. You've been an unfortunate soldier, but you are a great man.
How long can a man watch a lizard?
What?
How long can a man lie in a hammock and watch lizards on the ceiling and dream of freedom? I'm a fool, Max, a fool!
Wait, General, wait.
You are awake now?
Yes.
Is there anything you wish? Food? Water?
No.
I did not ask you when you first came in because you were burning with the fever. But I will ask you now. Something has gone wrong, and you are here. Why did you come to me?
I promised I would come to you. Tell me what it is to feel as you do, to have a life that belongs to yourself and not to a country or people.
So it has become hopeless.
No arms, no men, no money. They cannot expect me to go on. I have given up a fool's task. There is no reason trying to carry it further. You knew when we met before a moment like this would happen, huh?
Yes.
Could you love me, Annette?
Yes.
What is it?
Could you love me? Or have they taken too much from you already?
Only time will answer that.
Then I am willing to wait. How will you tell them?
I will go back and resign my commission.
Excellency?
I want you to carry a message to Colonel Marino, Captain Ribas, Captain Mendez, Lieutenant Mamistoy. Tell them to meet tomorrow morning without fail.
Yes, Excellency.
That is all. Good night. That came from my quarters.
Yes, Excellency.
Carlos.
General.
You? What is it, man? What is wrong?
You still live. General, here's a knife.
Lower your rifle. We all know this man. Carlos, what is it?
Do not come closer, General.
You would kill me?
I have killed you.
You are mad.
He paid me to do it.
Cordoba?
Yes, and I shall do it now. No! Excellency, you are all right?
Si. Carlos is dead. Quickly to my tent.
Yes.
Felix.
General. You are not harmed.
No. Felix, what happened?
I was concerned for you. I heard Cordoba was here.
I sleep on your bed, waiting for your return.
Cordoba paid my servant to kill me. Carlos thought you were me.
You are safe.
Lie still, Felix. Sentry! A doctor! Find the doctor!
Yes, General. It is too late for a doctor.
No. You cannot die for me. Oh, Felix, you do not know what I was about to do.
I would rather die for you, General. Now you must realize. You are the revolution. That is why the Spanish tried to kill you. Without you, there is no hope for freedom.
Felix. Felix. Felix.
Seven schooners, 2,000 muskets with bayonets, powder, and lead. Is that right?
That is what Pétion has promised.
It's unbelievable.
You have seen the dispatch, the seal of the President of Haiti?
Yes. Well, goodbye, General.
We will meet again in Bogota.
Yes.
Annette.
I have been waiting to say goodbye. Alone.
Annette,
Do not say anything. I know your love is for the land and the people. I cannot understand it. But I can understand that a few men are made that way. And it is impossible to change that. But there is that one moment when he might forget it.
Yes.
I will watch this ship from the rock. As it goes by, I will say, the revolution goes by. I must go now. I have lost my dream, Simon Bolivar. But you have regained yours. Goodbye.
Simon Bolivar went on to lead his armies throughout Latin America, and he defeated the Spanish army at every turn. He established free governments and constitutions and democratic law. He gave his repose and all his life to his country. He fought for her and he freed her. Indeed, he became the George Washington of South America. Like General Washington, he had met his Valley Forge and had conquered it.
Remember the first time your mother made you write a thank you note? There you sat, pencil in hand, that big blank sheet of white paper staring at you, defying you to fill it with words. Ooh, what punishment. You know, I've decided that big blank piece of paper was half the problem, because recently I got a thank you note from my little niece. It was written on some gay Hallmark note paper. There were little blue forget-me-nots all over the cover with two cute cherubs floating in a basket drawn by bluebirds. And I realized my niece wanted to use that pretty paper. And that's true of all Hallmark note paper. Yes, everyone finds these small decorative papers inviting to use. They come in many different designs, some with flowers, some with a touch of whimsy, some with a modern motif. All of them ideally sized for your short notes, for the thank you or invitation that should be brief. And like Hallmark cards, these attractive note papers have the hallmark and crown on the back to show that you care enough to send the very best. And now here again is Lionel Barrymore.
You know, Frank, I used to know a very lovely lady who was one of our most famous hostesses. She once told me that a sure way to get on her preferred guest list was to be prompt in the matter of thank-you notes. Seems like those Hallmark notes you just told us about would be mighty handy to have around in a situation like that.
They are, Mr. Barrymore. They're helpful for almost any occasion you can think of.
Suppose you tell the folks about our story on the Hallmark Hall of Fame next week, Frank.
Next week, Mr. Barrymore, we will present one of the most important and amazing incidents of modern history. A true and highly dramatic episode from the life of America's elder statesman, Bernard Baruch.
Oh, well, that sounds unusual, Frank. Until next week, then, this is Lionel Barrymore saying good night.
Here's an important announcement from the makers of Hallmark cards. Boys and girls of high school age can win big cash prizes for themselves and for their schools in the Hallmark Hall of Fame contest. All you do is nominate a person for the Hallmark Hall of Fame and tell in a brief essay why you chose that person. See the February 3rd issues of Scholastic magazines for full details of the rules and cash prizes for the Hallmark Hall of Fame contest. Look for Hallmark cards that are sold only in stores that have been carefully selected to give you expert and friendly service. Remember, a Hallmark card when you care enough to send the very best. Our producer-director is William Prue. Our script tonight by Robert H. Nolan. Our guitarist, Jose Barroso. Original music by Jerry Goldsmith. Featured in our cast, Charlotte Lawrence, Lamont Johnson, Harry Bartell, Ben Wright, Jack Crucian, Tony Barrett. You are also invited to the Hallmark Hall of Fame on television every Sunday. This is Frank Goss saying goodnight to you until next week at the same time, when we'll present a true story from the life of Bernard Baruch. And on March 7th, the story of Nurse Edith Cavell, starring Miss Helen Hayes, on the Hallmark Hall of Fame. This is the CBS Radio Network.
This is KMBC, Kansas City, Missouri.
From 70 years ago, February 21st, 1954, the Hallmark Hall of Fame here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll wrap up today's episode with an episode of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. That's next.
Extra, extra paper. Get your paper here.
Yeah, it says here in the paper folks are shouting for sugar. If you ask me, they ought to give it to us. No sense of the sugar rationing anyway.
Yeah, a lot of foolishness. Why, they say the warehouses are full of it.
Yeah, I guess those fellas down in Washington can't think of anything better to do. If you want to know what I think, this sugar rationing business is all the bunk.
Have you heard that kind of talk? Don't be misled by it. The truth is that although sugar imports have improved somewhat in the last several months, ship sinkings off our Atlantic coast have increased. Remember this. The next time you hear someone say that sugar rationing is unnecessary, a wise person does not spend his entire check on the day he gets paid. A wise nation does not eat up its reserve stocks in wartime. It rations them to make them last as long as possible. Sugar rationing is necessary.
Make sure you visit our webpage to support this program, classicradio.stream. That's classicradio.stream. And you can stream our shows, learn about building a classic radio collection of your own, find our social media links. You can also find a lot of interesting information, items to be purchased, or you can just buy me a coffee, whichever you prefer. Tomorrow, The Lives of Harry Lime, Big Town, Dragnet, The Lineup, and Counter Spy. But right now, we wrap up today's show with The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring John Stanley, originally broadcast 75 years ago, February 21st, 1949.
From New York City, the makers of Clipper Craft clothes for men and more than 1,200 leading retail stores from coast to coast presents Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's immortal character, the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes, starring John Stanley. This week's story, The Adventure of the Hangman and the Book.
It's rather chilly out here in the park, eh, Holmes? Good thing the gendarmes brought along torches. It's terribly dark.
This way, Watson. Follow the inspector.
There, Monsieur Holmes. Just before you. In the torchlight.
Aha. The dead body hung from the limb of the tree and dancing grotesquely in the wind.
Not every man has the broad shoulders and slim, tapering waist of an athlete, but it's a fact that men who wear Clippercraft suits look like they do. That's the result of careful Clippercraft styling, of design that emphasizes good points and minimizes bad ones. You don't ordinarily find such styling in $45 suits, but a Clippercraft worsted suit at only $45 gives you styling plus expert workmanship and fine quality materials. It's the same with Clippercraft topcoats at from $40 to $47.50. Clippercraft clothes actually look like they cost much more, and they would, except for the fact that over 1,200 established independent local merchants pool their tremendous buying power to get them for you at such low prices. Compare Clippercraft clothes yourself. Put on a Clippercraft suit and a Clippercraft topcoat and see how good you feel. Your friends will all say, "Gee, but you're looking swell." And you will be. Now, Dr. Watson, we await our rendezvous with the adventure of the hangman and the book.
It was at the turn of the century, Mr. Harris. The enormous pressure of work upon Holmes had become too much for him. He suggested we steal away to Paris for a week of relaxation. Holmes and I were in Paris at our hotel when this criminal began his operations. It was at the Bon Temps bookstore, a world-famous Parisian shop noted for its collection of rare works. In the cellar beneath the shop was a thin, drawn, nervous young chap, Albert the clerk. He was poking about the bookshelves with a candle in his hand. Then suddenly, he heard footsteps. He looked up, terribly frightened.
Who is it? Who's coming down?
I am, Albert.
Oh, Monsieur Bontemps.
Didn't I forbid you to come into the cellar?
Yes, you did. I had to know the secret. I had to know what you kept down here.
I ought to thrash you, snooping about when I forbade it. I told you I did not want anyone in this cellar. I won't allow my own wife. I won't allow Alice down here. Let alone a miserable, sniveling clerk. How long have you been here?
Just a few minutes.
Long enough to look about, eh? To see what I keep here.
No, I'm terribly sorry. My curiosity got the best of me. I'll never do it again. You won't punish me, Monsieur Bontemps?
We shall see what I'll do about you, Albert. We shall see.
Is the shop closed, Marcel?
Yes, Alice, darling. Going out again for the evening?
I am.
You have left me here alone every night this week.
Oh, don't be tiresome. You know I'm bored to distraction when I'm home with you.
Then I'll go out with you. I'll take you wherever you wish.
Marcel, we've gone over this so many times. Help me find my jade earrings like a dear, won't you?
You're staying home tonight, Alice.
Oh, stop pawing me. Let me alone.
I am so loathsome to you.
Yes, you know you are. You never did attract me, you know that. I told you before I married you for prestige and financial purposes. You accepted that. Now you insist upon being as romantic as a schoolboy.
Stop it. I don't want to hear that. I can't stand that.
You insist upon forgetting that you are more than 20 years older than I am, Marcel. You refuse to face that. You're old and withered and repulsive.
Albert, my clerk, is more appealing to you, isn't he?
Oh, nonsense. Where did you get that notion?
Don't lie to me. I've seen you together. After you thought I left the store, I saw you take him upstairs to the apartment.
Just to chat.
Oh, really?
Get out of my way, Marcel. I'm late. Go downstairs to the cellar. To whatever fantastic secret down there intrigues you so.
If you go out again tonight, Alice, I'll put an end to it. I won't be disgraced and thrown aside this way. I have some pride, although you've used every device on earth to destroy it.
Let's not quarrel, dearest. Here's a kiss for you. Now, help me find my earrings, won't you?
All right, Alice. Anything you say.
Alice, wait.
Yes, Albert.
I ran after you to ask if I'll see you tonight, Alice. I waited for you at the cafe last night, but you never came.
I shan't see you anymore, Albert. Except at the shop, of course. On business.
You what?
Marcel knows about us. We must stop.
But you can't just dismiss it.
Oh, yes, I can.
I risked my job because of you. I risked Marcel dragging me to court, possibly putting a knife into me.
We've had some rather pleasant times together, Albert. Now suppose we forget them. You're capable of that.
Oh, you're going out with another man, aren't you?
That does not concern you. Let go of my cape. Go back to the store. Marcel will be upset.
Do you think you'll ever come to the end of it, Alice? Do you think you can go on forever like this?
Albert, call me a carriage like an angel.
You wouldn't be very attractive to other men, Alice, lying in the morgue with your neck broken.
Oh, Albert, that's impetuous. That's very, very foolish. Go on, sweet. Call me a carriage. Who is there? I saw you behind that tree. I know you've been following me through this park. If you don't stop, I shall call a gendarme. I said I know you are behind that tree. I can see your silhouette. Oh. So you will show me who you are. I might have known it would be you. What are you doing with that rope? You've made a hangman's noose of it. Let go of it. My throat. God, please.
We of the Sûreté, the French police, we are delighted to have you with us in Paris, Monsieur Holmes.
Thank you, Inspector.
Your accommodations here at the hotel are satisfactory?
Quite.
We're very comfortable, Inspector. Enjoying our visit immensely.
Superb, Dr. Watson. I am happy you have relaxed, Monsieur Holmes, because, 1,000 apologies, the relaxation is over.
Precisely what do you mean, Inspector?
Just a few moments ago, a gendarme discovered the body of a woman hanging in the Tuileries. She had been hung to a tree by a rope.
Routine police matter.
Ordinarily, Monsieur Holmes, yes. However, the case is most extraordinary. The woman was the wife of Marcel Beautin, the distinguished owner of the Beautin bookshop.
Really? I know Marcel. Remarkable shop, one of the best. Marcel and I correspond frequently.
Monsieur Holmes, the journalist will create a great crisis over the death of Madame Beautin. I must find the killer immediately. I need your help, monsieur.
Have you questioned Marcel, her husband?
Well, as best we could. He is grief-stricken.
Where's the body?
Well, I have closed the Tuileries, Dr. Watson. I have ordered that the body be left, hanging from the limb, exactly as it was found. It awaits your arrival, Monsieur Holmes.
Very wise, Inspector.
Oh, then you will help us move toward the solution?
I will arrive at the solution, my dear Inspector. Watson, a cab to the Tuileries.
It's rather chilly out here in the park, eh, Holmes? Glad the gendarmes brought torches, too. It's terribly dark.
Yes. This way, Monsieur Holmes. You may see the guard we have stationed about that huge tree. Yes. And there, in the torchlight...
Aha. Swaying from the limb of the tree, the body of Alice Bonton.
Horrifying sight.
Let's have a closer look, shall we? Inspector, has Marcel, this dead woman's husband, any notion as to how this occurred?
Oh, he is too ill. He is prostrate. It will be a few days before we can question him thoroughly.
Aha.
What is it, Holmes? What do you see?
I see, my dear Watson, that I must pay a visit to Monsieur Charles Guillaume, the eminent French publisher.
Yes, what on earth does he have to do with this grisly crime?
More than he would imagine. In the obscure records of that publisher, there's a forgotten entry which contains a clue as to who is responsible for this homicide. That entry speaks the name of the criminal just as if this dead body before us were whispering it too. Whispering the killer's name as it executes a macabre dance in the moonlight.
It's pleasant to shop in your local Clippercraft store, wherever you live, because your Clippercraft merchant is an established, substantial hometown businessman who is anxious to win and keep your friendship. To please you and give you more value for your money, he has joined with over 1,200 outstanding merchants in a vast pool of buying power to make Clippercraft values possible. Clippercraft genuine worsted suits for $45 and Clippercraft topcoats for $40 to $47.50 would not otherwise be possible. For Clippercraft quality is the traditional quality of New England, the same careful craftsmanship that built the famous Yankee Clippers, from which Clippercraft clothes take their name. You can trust Clippercraft clothes, and you can trust the men who sell them. That's why men who know insist on Clippercraft clothes bearing the Clippercraft label. So be sure to visit the Clippercraft store in your city.
These leading stores in the metropolitan area are proud to add their names to Clippercraft in your suits and topcoats. In Manhattan, John Wanamaker Men's Stores, Broadway at 8th and 67 Liberty Street. Saks 34th, Broadway at 34th. In Brooklyn, Abraham and Strauss. In Newark, New Jersey, Boulevard Men's Shop, Kresge, Newark. And in Jamaica, the B&B Clothes Shop, 16408 Jamaica Avenue.
Now, Dr. Watson, shall we return to the adventure of the hangman and the book?
Well, Mr. Harris, after Holmes examined the body of Elise Bontemps in the Tuileries, he noticed a small detail he would not disclose. Next morning, he dashed to the offices of Monsieur Guillaume, the publisher. He returned with a Cheshire cat's grin that indicated he was close to his prey. Then some time later, we visited Monsieur Bontemps at his bookshop. The shop was dismal, dilapidated, funereal. Indeed, a frightening place. Monsieur Bontemps came toward us.
Monsieur Holmes, I am honored.
I hardly expected to see you on this trip, Marcel. You know Dr. Watson?
You have mentioned him to me frequently. Delighted.
How do you know?
You have heard of my tragedy?
Yes, Marcel. Could you recount what occurred the evening of your wife's demise?
She left me here to visit someone. She seemed untroubled, so I allowed her to leave and did not escort her to where she was going. Evidently, on her way home late that night, she chose to walk through the park, the Tuileries, alone. I would say she was attacked by a night prowler. She resisted him, and he did away with her. I was awakened by a gendarme who brought me terrible news. You have a theory, perhaps, Monsieur Holmes?
Perhaps. I see you still have a magnificent collection of books.
Oui, certainement.
Is this your entire stock here in the shop?
Yes. Our apartment is upstairs. Our books here.
And below the shop?
The cellar is locked, Monsieur Holmes. We have not been to the cellar in many years.
Anyone work for you here, Monsieur Bontemps?
I employ a clerk, Albert.
Where is he?
That is a problem. He did not report for work these past 2 days.
Were your relations with Albert on a pleasant basis?
Not entirely.
How long has he been in your employ, sir?
Oh, approximately a month.
What trouble have you had?
I do not like to place the young boy in a bad light, but I have reason to believe he was more than fond of my wife, Elise.
I see. A chat with Albert, then, might be very enlightening.
Please, Monsieur Holmes, I am not accusing the poor clerk.
You have his address?
27 Rue Cerise. Albert Joliot.
Come, Watson.
To talk with the boy?
Yes. Perhaps this romantic young clerk, in his leisure moments, is a hangman.
Well, Holmes, what's our next step? His landlady said the clerk Albert hasn't been home for a few days.
We shall return to the Bontemps bookshop, Watson.
Yes, we've been there.
Oh, we shall return much later this evening. Midnight, I should say. When the owner has left, we shall again visit the mysterious bookshop.
But, Holmes, you looked at it.
There is one spot we did not see. By far the most interesting, too.
What spot is that?
When I inquired about it, Bontemps turned white. He trembled.
What spot, Holmes?
The cellar, Watson. We shall pay a midnight visit to the cellar.
Well, there's the door to Bontemps' cellar, Holmes. It'll be locked, of course.
That is why I brought a few instruments with me, Watson, to force the lock. It's childishly simple for me. I've made an extensive study of continental locks.
Well, here we are. Now...
Quietly, Watson. I shall work at the cellar door. You keep an eye out.
Yes, right you are.
Shouldn't take but a moment. See anyone? Hear anyone?
No, all clear. Go on.
Simple lock. Just another moment.
I hear someone, Holmes. Coming down the street.
I must finish.
Hurry, Holmes, you'll be seen.
One more second. There we are.
Good.
Quickly, the door.
Yes.
Follow me. Be careful. Rickety wooden steps.
Righto.
Match, Watson. Light the candle we brought.
Yes, certainly. Holmes, what do you expect to find down here? Good Lord, I've never seen so foul and musty a place. You see the rats?
The answer is here, Watson. The answer must be here.
Yes, but what sort of shocking secret lies in this cellar?
I'm looking for it.
For what? Listen. Someone's down here.
That direction, Watson. Left. Bring the candle.
I am not afraid of the dark, Mama. But why is it dark at night? Tell me, why it is so dark at night, Mama?
It's the clerk, Albert. I know him from his landlady's description. He's been tied up, Holmes. Look, he's bound to that pillar there.
Yes, so he has, and apparently he's gone insane.
Yes, by Jove, yes, look over his head. Isn't that a form of ancient torture?
It is the water method. Accomplished in this case with a large pitcher and a funnel, which is replenished now and then by his captor. Albert was bound to that pillar, but a steady drip of water strikes his head, and he's gone mad. Tortured also by the darkness, by hunger and thirst, and the huge rats against which he's been defenseless. Untie him, Watson.
Yes, of course. Just 1 minute.
The water.
There we are.
The water doesn't stop, you see. Only your mind stops. Rats are cruel animals. Perhaps not as cruel as men. They enjoy human flesh.
He must be rushed to a hospital. Maybe years before his sanity is restored. Ever.
Water is a colorless compound of hydrogen and oxygen. It is very helpful to man. It is beautiful. In the form of mighty oceans, lakes, and rushing rivers. It has many uses. All of them essential to life.
Where are you going, Holmes? What are you looking for?
There we are, this shelf.
What is it?
A book, faded to illegibility in parts, very dusty.
A book?
The book, Watson. Though not outstanding in this surprising collection, I see.
You mean you originally stole into this cellar simply to find that book?
Yes. Now we must find Marcel Bontemps immediately.
I will spare you the effort, Monsieur Holmes.
Not very hospitable of you, Marcel, to greet us with a pistol.
I'm familiar with your reputation, Monsieur Holmes. I realized you would become suspicious, so I have been waiting for you with this pistol, which I shall use.
You have come to put more water in the pitcher of my hand, Monsieur Bontemps. Please, no more water.
May I ask, Monsieur Holmes, what book intrigues you so?
This work in my hand is entitled Rare Techniques in Homicide. It includes an exact reproduction of a Persian manuscript written in the time of Darius I. The subject of it, techniques of torture and murder used during the Peloponnesian War.
Holmes, why that book?
When I observed Marcel's wife hung to the limb of the tree, Watson, I noticed she'd been tied with a special knot. I recognized it immediately. It was the very peculiar knot for garroting, described in the Persian manuscript. There was just one place on earth where that knot is described. In this book. I knew there were just 2 copies of this work left in the world.
I see you have one at Baker Street, I dare say.
Of course. I therefore asked Guillaume, the publisher, an expert bibliophile, where the other copy was.
He told you I had it, eh, Monsieur Holmes?
Yes, he did. Therefore, I paid you a visit to look for it. I found it, Monsieur Bontemps.
That, unfortunately, does not prove that I am Alice.
Why not?
Because Albert, my clerk, gibbering there in the corner, could have read it too. He has been to the cellar before. I found him here prior to the night of the murder.
Yes, Marcel, when I saw the knot, I immediately realized the killer must either have been you or Albert, your clerk. But Albert could never have read this book and learned to tie the fatal knot.
Why not? He was here. He had access to it.
Observe the book, sir. It's faded to the point of being illegible.
He still might have read it before it faded.
Could he? Call upon your excellent knowledge of printing, sir. Has it not been at least a year since this type was legible? Look at the pile of dust accumulated upon this book. Has it not been at least a year since the book was touched at all? And did you not say to me yourself that you've employed Albert for only a month?
Remarkable, huh?
Marcel, you executed the contents of the book to the letter. The book relates that the ancient punishment for adultery was physical death for the wife. So you murdered Alice. And the punishment for the lover was more subtle. It was mental death, torture to the point of insanity. So you pounced upon Albert, tied him to that post in this cellar, and arranged your diabolical water pitcher. Yes, you've been deeply affected by this amazing collection of books.
You see before you, gentlemen, the great secret of my cellar, which I have concealed all these years. Every book on the subject of crime ever written.
I noticed you've the secret records of Caligula, Torquemada during the Inquisition, the blood-stained memoirs of the Borgias.
This was my real world down here. The world upstairs, my shop, my wife. I was unhappy there. This began as a hobby, an intellectual pursuit, but then I grew to absorb it, to revel in it.
Yes, I'd say you've become intoxicated with crime.
Time and again I was tempted to try committing a crime. It was always in the back of my mind. Then, when I found Dalit was making a puppet of me, when I found how she hated me, when I found out about her and Albert...
You satisfied your desire and accomplished what you believed was justice by enacting what you read in this strange book.
And now I've a wonderful opportunity to know the satisfaction of committing a great crime, Monsieur Holmes, of killing both of you, and then leaving Albert as I plan to rot away in that corner of my cellar in living death. My own memoirs will be a glorious new addition to my collection.
You'll do it, Holmes. He's going to pull that trigger.
My leg.
Are you all right, Monsieur Holmes? Dr. Watson?
Yes, Inspector.
I am coming down.
I have Bontemps' gun. Here, Inspector.
Oh, it was very foresighted, Monsieur Holmes, to tell me to come by. Should you meet Bontemps unexpectedly?
Unexpectedly? My dear Inspector, it's obvious my reputation here on the continent is not what it is throughout the British Empire. You may inform your associates that there is nothing unexpected to Monsieur Sherlock Holmes.
Well, Dr. Watson, that was a very thrilling story indeed.
Well, I'm delighted that you found the adventure so exciting, Mr. Harris. And I do believe that next week's story is just as gripping. It is called The Adventure of the East End Strangler. It concerns a city in terror, a scream in the night, a bit of blue thread, and an old lover.
The makers of Clippercraft clothes and more than 1,200 stores from coast to coast have brought you another in the new series of broadcasts featuring the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Our stories are based upon the character Sherlock Holmes created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and the program is produced and directed by Basil Lochran. Sherlock Holmes is played by John Stanley, Dr. Watson by George Spelton. This week's story was written by Howard Merrill with special music by Albert Berman. If you don't know your Clippercraft dealer, write Clippercraft, 200 Fifth Avenue, New York City. Money can help the fight against heart disease. Send a donation to your local Heart Association campaign or to the American Heart Association, Box 500, New York City. Be sure to listen next week to Sherlock Holmes in The Adventure of the East End Strangler. This is Cy Harris speaking for Clippercraft Clothes. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
From 75 years ago, February 21st, 1949, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with crime drama with The Lives of Harry Lime, Big Town Dragnet, The Lineup, and Counter Spy, right here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.